Be live momentarily.
Tap, 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 tap. Are we live? I think that we're live. Does it say that we're live?
It says we're starting.
Okay. Oh, it says we're starting? Or it
Yes.
says we're live?
I don't know if chat starts yelling at us. Well, that's how we'll know we're going. Oh, we're going.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the fourth or fifth installment of the Gaytriarchy podcast. It's getting to the point where I cannot even really actually keep track. Are you a gay guy? Are you sick of contemporary gay culture? Are you sick of feminism? Are you sick of the way that everything has been taken over? Are you sick of this assumption that homosexuality is synonymous with femininity? Because you came from a small town, you moved to the big city, and everybody now wants you to be a drag queen, and you're like, dude, I don't want to be a drag queen. I don't want to put glitter in my beard. I actually wanted to have sex with men because they were men, and I thought that going to the big city would be a great place to find other men who thought that they wanted to have sex with other men. But it turns out that the only real men were in my small town. So maybe I'm going to move back to my small town and find the few closet cases that are there, because it seems like a better goddamn option. Well, today on the Gaytriarchy, I think that we have one of those type of guys who is a feral cat. He started a YouTube channel recently. He's not a closet case, though. He is an open homosexual, but he apparently came from a small town and is quite masculine. Totally want to see pics because he has a really sexy voice. And say hi, Feral.
Wait, I want to meet this guy.
You're supposed to be him.
Oh, okay. Now, how's it going, everyone?
That's a pretty good introduction.
It was all right.
It was a fantastic introduction. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, glad to have him on. And then my other Gaytriarchy squad co-host type crowd is going to be from the left, our cat's gay.
Hello.
And then we got Derek of the I've recently discovered that your avatar is probably yellow and black for a reason. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah. It's an ANCAP reference.
Yeah, okay. I just put the two and two together.
And I wear black and yellow glasses like in real life too to try to like signal out to find the ANCAPs, but like nobody gets it. Like 0% people are like, "Oh my god, cool! You're from ANCAPistan, awesome!" And then like you have our handshake ready, but I don't get to ever have that experience. I don't know.
Have you ever performed your interpretive dance of your political philosophy?
Oh, of course. That's how I walk. But no, this is just like when I was in high school and I was super into J-pop and K-pop and shit. And like then right after I graduate, it's like that's when Gangnam Style happens and like everybody's into it. It's like I was supposed to be like 10 years younger, I think.
Well, let that be a lesson to anybody from the far left that might be watching this who has become recently paranoid about, far right dog whistles and blah, 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 blah. They don't work.
They don't work.
Saint of Bacon.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
The other one, yeah. Our token bisexual who we got to now run the tech for some reason, even though that position just sort of fell into his lap by happenstance.
Could it be because we're a bunch of technologically inept homosexuals that don't know how to operate any of this equipment?
I'm a fucking genius, goddammit. I'm just really busy. Oh, wait, I also have to get my 20-year-old friends to teach me how to play every video game on the PlayStation Network. Never mind.
Well, I am bisexual, so binary is our native language.
Dude, you just went from a 1 to a 0 with that.
Ha!
Thank you.
I get it.
Oh my god.
So, okay, we got to stick to the structure, and I believe that what we generally do, unless somebody just has some great thing to say about their personal life, that some really funny thing happened to them this week. Did something like that happen that it's worth saying, or should we just move right on to the news?
I recently grew a second penis. Does that count?
No, it
Oh,
doesn't.
well, then never mind.
Okay. So I guess we should go right to the news, and I'm gonna save my. I don't want to do the story that I really wanted to talk about first, because I'm sort of hoping that we'll maybe get some new viewers, by the time it gets to that story, because I kind of have a lot to say about it. So what story should we talk about? And sorry guys, I haven't actually gone over things yet.
Well, the first one that I have loaded up is scientists finding out that oral sex gives you an increased risk of cancer, because feminists just have to kill oral for everybody.
My life has just lost all meaning.
Wait, is this real research or feminist
I'm
research?
assuming it's real research. I've only skimmed the article. It's from Johns Hopkins University, so it's...
I read it. We can talk about that more in a second.
Okay. Since you're a resident medical professional, do you want to go in on it?
In a nutshell, someone with a higher level degree than mine can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understand in my lowly position is that yes, there is an increased risk, but that's about it. Yes, if oral sex is a great way to get the human papillomavirus, it's really not the most common virus for you to get, and there's not really a good way to test for it until you start getting symptoms, because if you preemptively test from it, as I understand, the oral part that is, you could actually aggravate your throat in a way that could actually cause the cancer. So, it's an increased chance, but not a huge increase. I'm gonna wade back into controversial waters for a second. It's the same way that getting a circumcision can technically lower your risk of penile cancer, but it's not, since penile cancer in the West is not super common. It's like, well, yes, it lowers it, but by what degree? Or to a less controversial extent, women being told that you should freeze your eggs if you are over 30, because there is an increased chance that your child will have autism if you attempt to conceive children after 30. And it's like, well, yes, about a maybe 1 to 3% chance. But they don't tell you that, because the people that promulgate that particular statistic is the embryonic freezer industry, and they have an invested interest in people freezing more embryos because it's good business for them. Mm-hmm. So basically, as far as this goes, yes, if you suck dick, there's a chance that you could get oral cancer. There's also a chance that you could get hit by a car, struck by lightning, mauled by a pack of wild poodles.
That happened to my uncle. It was very sad.
What's the oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What's the oral cancer rate on sucking on lollipops?
I would imagine it depends what the lollipop is made of. If it is made out of corn syrup, not very much. If it's made out of arsenic, I'd say near 100%.
Okay.
So just be very careful what dicks you suck on.
But what's the cancerous agent? Is it the semen?
No. It's nothing to do with semen. It's the HPV virus.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was just missing that.
No problem. That's the thing. Like there is an increased rate of oral cancer if you get the human papillomavirus HPV through oral sex, but it's not a huge risk at this point, and the chances of you getting it are not huge either. It's just statistically relevant.
So why was this in the news exactly?
Because it's great. It makes a great headline. Like, oral sex gives you cancer. Like, it's clickbait. I mean, like,
didn't we already kind of know that? Like, wasn't?
Yeah, but there's all kinds of dry medical information that the news will, make into, like, for a journalistic meme, because it'll get people's attention for a minute. And what could be more sensational than cancer and sucking dick in the same sentence?
Okay.
So just don't suck on penises that look scuzzy or scuzzy people.
And also, there is a vaccine for HPV if you're young enough. My doctor made me get mine, so.
But don't you know that if you get that injection, you and your children will not only develop autism, but you might become mimes.
And I also will be infected with candida, which will make me into, I don't know, some sort of drone or something.
Will you be a 4-copter drone? Like, will you get 1080p or? Oh no, different kind of drone.
Yeah, different kind of drone.
Oh.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh, it's watch Jeff Holiday's Jilly Juice series. That's where that came from.
Oh god, the weird cabbage juice lady.
Yeah, not only will it get rid of all your parasites, but it'll also ungay you.
Because gay people are very vulnerable to cabbage. Oh my god.
Well, good. That might also prevent the cancer later from all the dick sucking. So shit.
So I guess by her logic, then in Ireland, where apparently they eat nothing except cabbage and potatoes, there should be no gay people and no cancer.
I'll never be able to say Jeff Holiday did nothing for me. Saved my life.
Stock prices for cabbage have gone through the roof.
So I think that was a horrifically boring news story. Let's move on to the next one.
So,
I have a good one, unless someone else had something else in mind.
We have the what's it called? This is what Kat sent me, the LGBT South Park parody.
Oh,
Going after
what?
the Mormon Church.
It's called Salt Park.
Salt Park.
Yes.
So
They have a little preview for it if we can just watch it, right?
Okay, let me. Is it on the actual website? Oh yeah, it is on the. It is. The trailer is here.
So do you need to mute us to put the sound on?
Probably. Would you like me to do that?
Yes, just mute us and put it on.
Okay.
The following is intended for Mormon and ex-Mormon audiences, but viewing by everyone is advised.
Today we're going to learn more about the finances of the $1 trillion Mormon Church.
Since you can't learn in the classroom, as a Salt Park Elementary School counselor, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is sending you on the ultimate field trip, accompanied by me. Okay?
Follow the adventures of Salt Park Elementary students, Dan, Lyle, Benny, and Carmine, as they travel the country and meet some pretty famous folks. Like Glenn Beck, Donnie and Marie Osmond, Mitt and Ann Romney, the Mormon Apostles, Dieter Uchtdorf, Marlin the Detective, with Adam and Eve. Hey, what about me? And oh, yes, Mormon Church founder, the first true prophet, seer, and revelator, Joseph Smith.
Okay, you guys are back.
Hello.
Oh, were you playing the video?
Yeah, I played the video.
Yeah,
There was no sound, dude.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
There was on OBS and for the audience, but we couldn't actually hear it. So I went and I watched the play window on YouTube, but there's a delay, so I didn't get to see the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
But it looked okay. So who the fuck actually made this? I don't quite. Did the Mormon Church make this to fuck?
Oh
with South Park?
No.
I don't think anyone would admit to making that.
So actually, I can tell you because I was the one that inflicted that. It's not supposed to be cancer. It's actually supposed to be like a cancer vaccine. So the guy that made that, I believe he is a former Mormon. Gay former Mormon who wanted to specifically expose what he thought was the most troubling part of the Mormon Church, which is its vast business empire and how it abuses its tax-exempt status. He was going to do it for a while. People told him it was boring, and so he didn't. And then Prop 8 came out where the Mormons decided to fund, for those of you who don't live in California, the Mormon Church basically paid a bunch of money to try to get a law, which they actually did pass because of deceptive marketing in California, to outlaw gay marriage.
Oh, I remember when that happened.
We were. Oh, yeah. Those boys, as cute as they are in their white shirts and their black pants, they were not welcome on my front porch after that.
Doesn't the Mormon Church kind of own Coca-Cola? Some shit.
No, but they have a lot of stock in just about everything, which is ironic considering their religion prohibits them from drinking alcohol or caffeine or smoking, but they own stock and distribution companies for all of those substances.
Okay.
And they use their tax exempt status to do it. But yeah, it's the anti-gayness and the fact that it's a gay guy that's making it's actually reasonably funny from what I saw. Like it's it's not high quality, but it's nice that someone is making, another expose, because the Mormons, we've kind of been ignoring them for a while, but they still remain one of the most virulently anti-gay organizations in America.
Why is it called Salt Park? Is that because it's in Wyoming? Wait, no.
It's because it's all about Mormonism. Like these characters that are vaguely based on the South Park characters go like in time and talk to the different founders and other members of the Mormon community. Like it's all about just the Mormon Church and all the weird fucked up things it's done.
Salt in reference to
Salt Lake City.
Yes, that's okay. God, I knew it was something very obvious that I was just missing because I'm stupid. Okay. Yeah, Salt Lake City is the epicenter of Mormonism, and therefore it's called Salt Park, and therefore it's a show, and that's the thing. And it's made by some gay guy.
Yes.
I'll be watching it.
Yeah, okay.
And if it's good, maybe we can, I don't know, incorporate it into the show. If it's good. If it's not, then no.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks kind of cool to me. Does anybody know any Mormons?
I do.
I do.
I'm was a Seventh-day Adventist, and they're very close to Mormons, but in a weird kind of elliptical way that doesn't count.
Yeah, I've known some in the past. One thing I hear tends to be pretty true, and it actually really did ring true in my experience, is that they're actually, unless you start trying to talk about religion all that much, which they'll do, but they can avoid doing pretty easily, because I think they're pretty used to the fact that everybody thinks their religion is kind of wacky. Unless you are talking about religion, they're generally really, really fucking nice.
I think it's a part of their religion, like they're like being courteous or something.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
The 11th commandment, please and thank yous.
The Mormons I prefer are the ones found on the series. What is it? Oh, I can't remember it now. But there's an Elder Mormon porn series. It's really
Wow.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious. They have them. They you can tell they actually did some minimal research because they dress like them, they talk like them. They even have the magic underwear that we aren't supposed to know about.
Yeah, I went to like a religious school, and in one of my religion classes, we actually had a day where like some ex-Mormon came in and just like exposed all the secrets. But I'm just sitting there like, I can't trust you. How can I trust you? You just betrayed all the Mormons. Like, what if you're just lying to me?
You're a backstabber.
The weirdest thing that they believe is, have you guys heard why they believe that there are black and brown people in the world?
Oh yeah.
No, I haven't.
And it is the wokest thing ever.
Hey, Farrell, do you want to talk about it since you know about it?
No, not entirely, because I can't remember the entire story. Go ahead.
Well, I could be getting it wrong, but in a nutshell, they believe that the black and brown people in the world are the descendants of Cain, i.e., the cursed, the cursed first murderer. Like their dark skin is literally a result of the mark of Cain. They're cursed by God to be visually and spiritually lower beings.
Huh.
Like they actually go to a separate heaven, as I understand, if they're incredibly virtuous and they convert to Mormonism. Otherwise, they just kind of go away.
When they have a weird sort of like heaven multiverse where like everybody gets to become their own god of their own like universe or whatever, and like they have this whole thing about whoever the particular god of our universe is, and then the whole thing about they marked them black because they like turned their back to God or whatever. It's like it's really explicit. You're just like, holy crap.
It's like Scientology before there was Scientology.
There's a really, really funny like animated thing of it. It's probably the most famous thing that gets copied around. I could toss that link, I don't know, somewhere. You just like retweet it or whatever.
That, and I know with the Mormons, when you die, if you have to be married, and then if you're very virtuous and married when you die, you get sent to a planet by God with a space harem. You make new soul babies, and those soul babies basically become humans on another Earth, and you start the cycle over again.
Yeah, they show the video in my religion class. Like I went to a Lutheran one, so they were like not afraid to just dish out and just like crap on every single other Christianity. It was super funny. I love them. They're the best.
Were you ever actually Christian when you were a kid?
Oh yeah, I used to be super Christian. I was really serious about it. I tried to like suppress being gay and all of that.
Oh,
Yep, I did that
didn't know
too.
about you. So I never did that at all. Really? I mean, I tried to sort of suppress. No, I didn't try to suppress being gay. Like as soon as I started realizing I had sexual urges, really around, sexual urges. Sexual urges are a lot different when you actually figure out how to masturbate. And that was around, probably 13. And when I actually figured out that you could get off, like when I figured out how to get off, I decided that I already knew that I was attracted to men. And I hoped I could be attracted to women too. I was like, I'm bi, yeah, because logically that sort of just made the most sense to me. And I would force myself to masturbate about women. Like I would try really, really hard. And the only woman I could ever get off to masturbating about was Alicia Silverstone.
Was it in her Clueless form?
No, it was technically in the Aerosmith music video form.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like you were just watching Clueless and like looping the dialogue in the back.
No, that came out after. That came out probably a year or two later. But she was quite cute in those Aerosmith videos.
She was. She's actually still pretty cute. Now she's all like vegan and chewing food for her children and stuff. But, it is. Yeah. It's different when you grow up very religious.
Oh yeah, I was going to say about the Mormons is that I went to this theater retreat immediately after graduating college. It was this 2-week thing where there was only a few of us. There weren't that many people there. Probably no more than 100 really overall, and we all lived in some fucking dorm together in this college in upstate New York called Bard College, and there was a kid who was a Mormon, and he was doing the playwriting thing, which is what I was doing, except for he hadn't actually written a play. He was trying to write a play while he was there, and I was revising a play. And I think maybe he had a play at the beginning, but then he decided to scrap it because I guess he decided that it was a shit play and he should just throw it out entirely, and it probably was. And he made his new play about how everybody thinks that he's gay, but he's really not.
Oh, jeez.
Sounds awesome.
Closet heterosexual.
Yeah, isn't that the fucking most faggoty ass thing that you could ever write a play about? Like, oh, I bet you're just so not gay, buddy. Yeah.
That would be the funniest concept ever. I'm just imagining like the cover art where it's like a whole society just like pushing a man into the closet and he's just resisting.
Oh my god. There was a gay comedy that I saw. It wasn't exactly like that. I think it was called Not Another Gay Movie.
Oh my god. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, like where everyone is like either gay or bi or just completely non-specified, and it's not unusual. Like it's a really strange movie.
It was kind of good though.
It was kind of good, but there was a sequel, I guess, but it didn't have anything to do with it, so I didn't bother watching it because I liked those characters. It was definitely better than Love, Simon, which I actually did like, but in a completely different way.
By the way, yes, it was basically this one time at theater camp. That's exactly that. Every story of that from that. I have a lot of stories from that fucking retreat, by the way.
This one time at theater camp.
I just have to say though, like this is literally like I'm convinced that guy is straight. Like I'm convinced that like the plight of everybody thinking he's gay like led him to writing a play, and this is probably the only scenario where like a man writing a play makes him seem straight. It's really just a fantastic story. All right, I believe he's straight.
It sounds like a Charlie Kaufman movie waiting to happen.
I just like need the catharsis of seeing this play happen.
What's the next?
I believe in him, isn't he? I don't think it's stupid.
I believe in you.
I believe. I have a Chechnya article.
Yeah, that's the next one we're going to.
Yeah.
Oh, bam! I pulled it right out of your head.
Yeah.
Right out of the frying pan.
So yeah, this is. Do you want me to actually go through and read the whole article from the BBC, or do you actually just want to talk about what's going on?
I mean, we can probably talk about it, unless I have a.
What's the headline, and then
Yeah, we'll
The
go from there.
headline is "Gay Chechens Flee Threats, Beatings, and Exorcisms."
Oh.
It's been going on in Chechnya for a while now.
Yeah.
Like they had legit had gay concentration camps. I'm sure they still do.
Yeah, I made a video about that.
That's right, you did. And I mean, Russia's bad, but Chechnya, oh god.
Well, the funny thing is that Russia is actually not that bad.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's really not that bad. I have a friend that I know from YouTube who is a gay guy that lives in Russia, and unless he's just totally, really, really, really good at lying, it's not nearly as bad as you hear about in American media. And I have live streams with him. What
about that group that operates in Russia? The what is it, like Occupy Pedophilia, that basically just hunts gay guys and posts the videos of them torturing them on the internet?
No, a lot of that stuff is like hugely exaggerated, like weird American propaganda. Like there's things that have happened that are particularly bad, but there's like.
Well, I hope so.
He says that it's not a great place to be gay in Russia, but they certainly have the internet. I was talking to him on a live stream. I think that the live stream might be saved, and I can show you guys his channel. He's very obviously gay. Like you listen to him, and he's a fucking gay Russian guy who's Asian, because apparently there's a lot of parts of Russia where most of the people are actually Asian, which makes sense.
Yeah, they're from Siberia.
And he now lives in Moscow, where there's several gay bars. There's 2 lesbian bars in Moscow, which there's not even fucking a lesbian bar in most American cities. And apparently St. Petersburg is the better place to be gay in Russia. So there's this gigantic misconception that Russia is this like horrible, misogynistic, horrible, fucking anti-LGBT fucking concentration camp, fucking blah, 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 blah. But then yes, there's definitely homophobia, blah, blah, blah. But there is the gay community. And if you stick with your own and you are on the internet a lot, and you can actually be relatively happy as a homosexual person in Russia, it is actually possible. And the reason that the people were in Chechnya, a bunch of, I think maybe even all of the concentration camp people were rescued, and they were rescued by Russian LGBT activists, or sorry, GLBT activists, because we know who probably rescued them.
I will give the caveat though that I really hope that this is true, but I firmly believe that that's only true in the huge metropolises of Moscow and St. Petersburg. Out in rural Russia, I very much doubt that it's very good, because the Russian Orthodox Church is possibly, besides the greater part of most Islamic countries, one of the most anti-gay organizations ever. The Archbishop of the Russian Orthodox Church at one point was quoted as saying that when gay children are conceived, they are literally damned from the moment of conception. Like that's what they preach in their semi-state sponsored religion, that we are basically animals, like we're not worth. Yeah.
Well, okay. What I will say is that people have American media spins a bunch of huge misconceptions about Russia. That if you actually talk to somebody that's from Russia, it will be like, for me talking to him about being gay in Russia, it felt kind of like learning about the evils of feminism for the first time, and how much I had been lied to about what feminism really is. I was like, oh shit, I don't know anything about Russia. Why did I think that I did? And it's not that it was fucking perfect. He was not saying there's no homophobia at all. It's just a lot more complicated, and that makes sense because it's a very, very huge nation. So
a huge, very insular nation with.
It's not really no. Okay, now now we're gonna move on because
Okay.
you should. I don't want to speak about this issue all that much, but it was one of those things where I thought I knew shit and then I just didn't know shit, and I had a long. I did 2 different streams with him, and
Okay, I'll do more research about this. Like I said, I
yeah,
sincerely hope it's true.
well, yeah, and it's one of those things where you also can't really do good research. You have to actually talk to people who are from it, because it's really hard to find. Do you see what can you imagine what I'm sort of saying?
Yeah, like like in the same way that like if you watch like the media, you get this perception that like America, particularly like the South and other places, are just these racist hellscapes where black people are being like, you know, tarred and feathered, and like
Yeah.
And it's just not really that way, even though there are some bad pockets.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would imagine that in the very metropolitan areas, that's very true, and just like in the more distant corners, it's probably a little bit worse. But you're right, I don't know, so I shouldn't speak.
Yeah. I just want to clarify that there's a lot of misconceptions, and there's reasons for that. You know, like the Democratic Party especially has a gigantic hate boner for Russia, and there's been a lot of deliberate propaganda to make people the Americans even more resentful of Russia than they
They do
already
make a
are.
convenient boogeyman.
Yeah. And so there's reasons for that, but I don't want to also defend Russia or anything because I don't really know that much about it. But there's more to the story. Is my point.
Fair point.
So let's talk more about this Chechnya thing.
Well, Chechnya is definitely not anything like that, and largely because it is a Muslim country, and so it's kind of got the worst of both worlds. It is a legitimately poor and insular nation, and its leader is kind of a psychopath. Which is, I should say, he is apparently a big fan of animals and cats, or at least that's what he says, although it's not uncommon for certain sociopaths to feign empathy for people by being overly fond of animals. Think PETA activists, anyone? Like that horrible woman that attacked YouTube. She was a vegan animal activist, but she had no problem turning her violence on other people.
I think she was just misunderstood.
Well, human lives don't matter if you're a vegan.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
I just wanted to comment on like this is one of those situations where the way the authorities responded was almost like you just shouldn't have said anything. Like you might remember there was a point where somebody like they tried to argue that one of their like cans of soda had a rat in it. And then in order to defend themselves, they were like, actually, no, that's impossible. We put so many chemicals in that shit that you would not be able to recognize a rat. Like there could be a rat in every single one of them and we wouldn't know any better. And it's like, you should have just pretended that there was a rat in that one can instead of saying that. So like right here, you have, there's people like trying to deny, right? And he's like, no, there's no gays in Chechnya. And it's like, even if such people existed in Chechnya, our law enforcement agencies would not need to bother with them because their own relatives would simply send them to a place from which they would never return. It's like Jesus Christ.
The denial.
There's no anti-gay anything here because their families would just kill them or like send them off somewhere. It's like
at that point,
I didn't laugh.
denial.
It's just like so extreme.
Well, it's like I think it's more of a horrific laugh, honestly, because I mean, here we are in the U.S. with our gay podcast talking about male gay issues. And
first world gay problems. Like
yes.
we're complaining about feminists while
our brothers and sisters across the world are literally being rounded up in camps and
brothers.
Well,
brothers,
yeah. But, I mean, okay, let's put this homosexuals in general, but yes, gay men are treated.
Do they take lesbians to the gay concentration camps in Chechnya? I mean, I just don't know.
Oh, go ahead. I'll let you.
Well, yeah, for the next part of the story about the exorcism, it's actually I shouldn't say it's funny, but okay. So she's like, my family figured out I'm a lesbian, and then they said they're gonna do an exorcism. So I've seen exorcisms that Muslims do. By the way, it's a Muslim exorcism, right? So flavor splash. It's But anyway, they take her to the mosque to do the exorcism, and she's like, so I've totally seen exorcisms on YouTube, so I guess I just have to like wail and thrash around, and like they ask me if there's demons, and I'm like, yeah, totally, and they're like, how many? And I'm like, there's totally 7 demons, and like, oh my god, right? It's just like she's like imitating YouTube to like convince them that she's having an exorcism so that they'll believe that it worked, so that she can like run away later. It's just like it's like ridiculous, absolutely
She played them.
ridiculous.
I
After
love
2
her.
hours, she says, everyone rejoiced and said I was cured. Hooray! They all shouted, "You're no longer a lesbian!" Like, this is a cartoon. Like, I can't believe this shit. Like,
It is funny in a sad way, but it also comes back to, again, the way men and women are treated differently, even more extremely, because with the lesbian, if they find out you're a lesbian, they figure, well, we don't have an issue with raping women, so we'll just marry her off, and then our honor is saved, and they just lock her away, never talk about her, and as long as she's got a husband, she's not a lesbian. But with the gay men, it's literally a shame to the family, and so typically speaking, like I said, they won't even bother sending them to concentration camps. Like it will be considered the family's duty to kill them, and pretend that they never existed. Which that's what happens to gay men. Lesbians, yeah, they just marry them off, rape them, whatever. But yeah, for us, or give them a bullshit YouTube exorcism. But for us, we get the full treatment.
they scream at them and slap them around for a couple of hours and then marry them off, which, I mean, it doesn't sound great. It doesn't sound like a fun time.
I'm sure it's horrible, but they don't kill them. They
Right.
don't beat them to death. Not usually.
But it's only gay if you're the girl.
Yeah.
In Islam, people apparently in Islamic places they make a lot of, and this is just something I've heard. I haven't really done the research, but there's a lot of excuses made for homosexuality because it turns out that there's lots of Muslim men who end up fucking Muslim men, so they'll make excuses.
Boys usually.
Well, they'll make excuses, but just so long as you're the top, or you're known to be fucking guys that are well known to be big old bottoms, or some weird crap like that. I don't
have
know.
a wife. As long as you're married, you're golden.
Well, they have an infamous saying there, which was women are for children and boys are for fun or whatever.
What were you going to say, Farrell?
Afghanistan.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I was reading the other day about how in Iran, they actually have a very large number of people that have sex reassignment surgery. That's basically their only way that they can get around it.
Yep, and actually Riley Dennis tried to use that as an argument for, look how progressive they are. There's so many trannies. Then Blair White called her out and was like, dude, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, that even pissed me off. It's like, you're basically saying, if you're gay, you get tortured, and then you're okay. It's like, come on,
particularly
read
since
between the lines.
There's no choice in it either. It's like
but Riley. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh well, Riley would be very, very unhappy. I think Riley probably is one of these people that hates gay men because gay men are men that love men, and Riley wants to be a woman that loves women because Riley's thing is really just that Riley really, really, really has issues with men. So
Riley is like, as a man.
Riley's like, well, they made the dumb decision in being gay, and then the government showed them the way, which was to be trans.
I don't think Riley's smart enough for that thought process.
He's devious, that one. What are you, Farrell? I keep throwing you under the bus because I want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts about Riley Dennis?
I'm still trying to process what I just heard.
You know about Riley Dennis, I'm assuming.
No, right now my mind is completely blown.
This is getting catty. This is getting bitchy. This really is a gay podcast. What do you think about
Wait. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't have anything nice to say it to me.
I get you. Yeah, you know what? That should be a great wake-up call for the rest of us because we're all crazy internet addicts that just spend days just sloughing through cancerous YouTube content, and we sometimes forget. When I try to talk to my family about these people, they're like, "Who are these people that you're talking about, and why do you care?"
Wait, so you literally don't know who Riley Dennis is?
Not a clue.
Oh my god. Okay. So Riley Dennis is one of these weird internet phenomenons of
Bacon, put his picture on.
Hold on, I'm looking this train wreck up.
Really? We're gonna misgender her also? Come on, guys.
Okay,
I
so,
misgendered her mid-sentence, so don't worry about it.
I
So,
really
okay.
don't give a fuck.
You obviously know the term transtrender, I can assume.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so when the term transtrender first came out and started being popularized, that was in around mid 2016, like right around when I first made my YouTube channel. And the two main examples of transtrenders that people always talked about were Milo Stewart and Justin Dennis. So,
And Justin transitioned to Riley.
yeah.
Kind of.
No, you can tell that this person has been on estrogen and stuff over the past 6 months or so.
You know what? The face looks familiar. I'm sitting here thinking, maybe Kieran Strawn or one of the other honey badgers may have had a video about her.
Well, I
Yep,
did a reaction video to
definitely.
her, so if you watched all of my videos, then you would have seen it.
But okay, so the
Makes
thing is
sense.
about Milo was just a wacky 18-year-old who eventually went on testosterone and then kind of shut up, and like there was like radio silence from Milo for the most part, and would like kind of make videos, and it was very awkward.
Milo
Whereas
changed her name to Quinby at one point.
Oh yeah, it changed to Quimby. That's right. But then, fucking Riley Dennis. The thing about Riley Dennis is that Riley Dennis has consistently stuck to making videos, like I think once or twice a week. I don't ever watch them because I don't do the whole ponage cringe content. That's not what I do. But other people do, and occasionally I'll watch people's response videos to this person. And they were also hired by the blog Everyday Feminism, so they were actually getting paid, corporate money to be preaching this like weird propaganda. And this person, my genuine read is that this person is an actual true believer, like the weird glossy-eyed. Like looking into the eyes is like looking into someone who has been truly brainwashed, kind of a person. And this person, I think that they just really, really, really hate men. And they started saying that they were transgender before they had done anything to transition, and they very openly admitted that they didn't actually listen to, if anyone made a response video, they never watched, so they never knew what the countering viewpoints for their arguments were. And I think that they might have disabled all of their comments, but I'm not sure. And so after about a year of people relentlessly making fun of this person, then they made a video about their transition and saying that they were on or on estrogen, hormone replacement therapy. And and within a few months, it did start to really actually seem like that. And so now we're in that phase. But the long story short, this person started out an ideologue and then seemingly became an actual transsexual based around being an ideologue, and is still like preaching the ideological nonsense and apparently getting paid for it. It's a very strange case of a person.
Well, she did just very deeply, analyze her gender and decide that it's time to transition because I deeply thought about this.
She also became famous for, prior to this, saying that any lesbian that wouldn't have sex with her or transsexuals were only doing it because they were transphobic. So
yeah, that was a big
yeah.
Well, it was more that if your reason is specifically that like the genitals don't match up, that's like an invalid reason. Not that you have to be attracted to Riley in particular. But.
Well, they said that, but they also tried to say that like there is no such thing as gender, and if you think that you're a bigot, basically.
Yeah, or in other words, just because you have the wrong key doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to open up the door.
Yeah.
Oh, for a second, I thought you were gonna mean key as in like key, like pitch of voice, and I was like, oh,
way to go off.
Sorry.
Oh my god, no.
So, I was too enthralled with the idea of having to explain Riley Dennis to somebody that didn't actually know, and we've totally gone off topic. Let's go. Take us back to the topic, Cats. Or Bacon, or whoever.
Okay, I
we
think
just started talking about lesbians.
Yeah, I think we were gonna talk about the Grinder, what they're doing, sharing their people's HIV status or whatever.
Yeah, although that article that kind of lost some of its teeth because Grinder recently said that they're not going to do that anymore. But yeah, it was a scandal. They got in trouble kind of the same way that Facebook did because they were essentially selling people's HIV status and geo data to several different firms to for research. I'm not really sure, and people kind of freaked out. And Grinder was like, well, you signed that. Yeah, you voluntarily put this information on here, and you signed that we were going to do it. So
They basically human centipede them.
yes.
God damn it.
Yeah, I always those apps always have kind of given me the creeps. The only one I ever downloaded was Scruff, and something about the fucking GPS tracking of every gay man around is always.
Although to be fair, like the GPS tracking on Grinder and these apps is about as reliable as gay men are on time. Like it'll say they're like 3 feet away and they're like across the freeway or something like that, or it'll say that they're like 100 miles away and they're in the next room. Like it's in the same way that our podcast suffers from technical issues, Grinder is just a freaking mess.
Actually, the first time I ever used Grinder was Six Flags. It was Gay Day at Six Flags.
Oh boy,
that's a thing.
Oh yes,
it's a thing.
Why is that a thing? There's no way that's still a thing.
Oh, it is.
No, I'm sure it is. I'm sure
totally a thing. It's where all the it's where there'll still be regular people there, but it's where all the really pretty gays like decide to go out and walk around the park mostly shirtless or in like shorts, and they just group by relative hotness. It's like a gay bar, only with even more expensive alcohol and roller coasters.
Wait, but if all the pretty gays are there, how come? Oh,
because we're there to watch them and for them to laugh at us while they wait in line.
So
the joke is how I don't know about it.
My friend and I were not that. My friend won tickets for and I was the person he won by winning an amateur strip contest.
Oh boy.
So that's why we were there, and I was on drugs the whole time. So I don't actually really remember it that well. But
footage of it ended up on Pornhub later, and let me tell you people, it was filthy.
I don't know. No. There was no sort of sex having in me. That wouldn't have been possible with the substances I was on.
A roller coaster was involved.
But Grinder had just come out. Like Grinder, and he had a phone, and we were walking around, and and he was like, "I wonder if there's any hot guys here." I'm like, "Well, I've seen a few," and he was like, "No, let's look at this thing that I have." And so we sat down, and periodically, in between fucking roller coasters or whatever, we would go on Grinder. And the thing is, so he is mixed Asian. It's that guy that I've talked about that I used to hang out with a lot, that I knew for a long time, and he's actually good looking. But what was funny is that we were simultaneously trying to write people messages while also having fun with each other and just giggling about stuff. And then occasionally we'd get a message and we'd write back, and he kept speaking and kept not typing right, and we realized that they probably thought he was just some weird wacky foreign guy that was some Asian guy that couldn't speak English that well.
May suck you long time. Yes.
Yeah.
Did they think he was a rent boy?
Yeah, I don't know. So But yeah, it always seemed very weird to me how and I've actually made a video where so there's this horrible gay guy named Gabe Gonzalez who publishes
from Mike.
Yeah, from Mike, and he says that he's Latino, and maybe he really is, but
either way, he's a cunt.
He looks like he's Jewish, and he's white Latino. There's such thing as white people who are Latino. And
he comes from an upper class family.
Yeah, I mean, his bloodline comes from Europe, and he accuses every gay guy of being racist, misogynist, and also says that gay guys shouldn't have parties that are for gay men only, that women should always be invited, and that gay guys are, misogynists if they are into masculine men, blah, 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 blah. But some audience member of mine found his fucking scruff profile.
No.
And what do you think he was looking for? Do you think he was looking for drag queens?
Masculine.
I'm guessing he was looking for White Mask.
He was looking for daddies, college, queer, muscle, or I don't remember, but you guys can watch that video. But
Told him to quit messaging me.
Yeah,
He was problematic as fuck.
but the thing is that, like, I obviously I had a little bit of a moral dilemma of publishing. It's like I'm semi doxing this guy, but it is literally in the terms of service that if you could put your profile in there, people can publish it as much as they want. It's out there. It's put on. It's
you
not
can change
private.
it or delete it at any time.
Yeah, the only thing you can do is delete it. So
Because it's not like Twitter or something like that where you have a handle. Like if you change your Grindr name or Scruff name, like they can't find you. It's not like there's an address that they can find you again. Like you're gone in the sea of dicks.
I will say though that with the whole, I know this is a hot topic, the definition of like doxing, because some people kind of steer towards a more broad definition, and I think that's kind of
currently being friends with somebody who allegedly maybe knew another person who allegedly found out somebody's real name.
Right, and I get that sometimes it's like totally ridiculous, but I am sympathetic to the argument that like if you take information and like they didn't want it posted in that spot or used it that way, that there's something there. It's kind of a matter of degree though, but like I don't know, I just think that's worth mentioning. But then the other thing too is I remember this was a few years back, there was this story where it was like an art project that someone was doing, and I forgot which European country, like one of the Scandinavian ones, where basically what they did was they like projected their like Grindr screen in like a big like town center.
In Berlin.
Yeah, and he basically and what they did was they used like a filter, but some people argued like you can still tell who you're talking to, and like I don't know, I thought it was kind of shitty.
No. I know someone who was one of the people that got.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Okay.
No. Yeah. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Nobody else though thought it was like a big deal. They were like, oh, whatever. And I was like, no, I think this guy's being a douche. Like, how is this okay? Like, the government's fucking paying for it. But yeah, you have a different story about this.
Yeah, I have a specific story that actually aligns with what you're saying. So the thing is, I know this guy, and I'm not going to dox him, so I'm not going to name him, but I'll call him Peter. And this one day, Peter, who is not a particularly like smart and I don't want to say
Peter.
He's kind of a dumbass. He's not. I just don't really like him that much. But I don't hate him. You know what I mean? I just don't really think he's that smart. He's pretty cute though. Like he's good looking. So Peter posts on Facebook this very long status update, and it had lots of likes and lots of maybe angry faces. I think it was. I don't think it was the emojis were on Facebook yet. I think it was just lots of likes and lots of comments. So I had to read it because it's very rare that Peter actually posts things that are very long, And he tells this story of having this guy write him this message about, hey, would you be interested in coming over and shaving my head with clippers? And the guy was reasonably cute, not all that cute, but he kind of felt like doing it just because it was a weird thing. So he asked a few questions and then eventually agreed to go meet up with the guy. And so he went down to the square in Berlin that he was projecting it onto. Like he was projecting it onto the wall in some busy metropolitan gay neighborhood or some crap. And it was kind of like, surprise, this is what the message was. And Peter went into he had like some, I think, like RV or something that he was doing it from, and the guy was in there, and Peter totally went in there and punched him.
Earned.
Right?
Hate crime.
No, yeah, all my friends on the internet were like, I don't know why you think this is a big deal, and I'm like, I don't know, like, really?
It would be a bigger deal anywhere.
I would be pissed.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think it's as big a deal if if it was messages, that would be I would kill someone. But
Yeah, that's what it was. It was messages. Like it was the actual
Oh,
chats, but back and forth.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought you meant it was just like the Grinder page.
No, so these are like direct messages.
Oh,
I mean, the
that's
Grindr
so.
page. Who gives a shit? That's a public service, I guess.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's okay. No, that is fucking shitty. It's like
So
I
you're
just,
so you're
It's-
saying
That ought to be a $5 fine that you just mail in. You don't even have to go down to the station. You know.
mhm.
so you're saying in Germany it's okay to post public, private correspondence, but if you say anything racist on Facebook, you're going to jail.
Or if you, I don't know, say that you think Angela Merkel's a bad leader or something.
You know what it is? Like the artist, he won't get in trouble for doing any of his project, but he would get in trouble if like one of the people he talks to has like no femmes on it, or like.
well, you know what he would get in trouble for, like if there was anything, even tangentially about Muslims or Arabs in there, because that's Angela. Frau Angela is sort of like the architect. Well, no, not sort of, is the architect of the destruction of Europe right now. And Germany's got a huge problem with no-go zones, and I mean, for God's sakes, like I can't believe that she's the one that created the no-go zones, and now she's the one that actually acknowledged that they exist by name. Actually, there is one relevant question, though. I'm going to bring it back to you again, though, Farrell. We mentioned in chats before how hookup apps are different in urban areas where a lot of us live versus in more rural areas, like where you have been around. Like, is Grindr? Have you ever used Grindr? Do you know people, how it works out in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, actually, I used to use it quite a bit, and then just kind of lost interest in it and got rid of it. But it is extremely popular out here. In fact, to the point where the two bars that we have in the city that I live in are really struggling.
Yeah, it has kind of killed the gay bar as a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
Although with Faust or Voiced, what I can't remember that's that anti-sex trafficking bill that it shut down. Craigslist shut down its personal section because of it, because they couldn't risk being liable for sex trafficking, and then I guess a furry personal's website shut down for it. So it seems like. Well, yeah, I know. Well, here's the thing. I don't know. Do I care about furries? No. But big but. If weird personals websites can be shut down because of some one or two bad actors, like it's only a matter of time before the whole of online dating falls apart. And if that does happen, it means gay bars will be relevant again, because there literally will be no other way to figure out. If you don't unless you live in a superly dense gay area, how do you find gay guys if you live? Mm-hmm.
Please have the gay bars come
I
back.
never had that problem. That was even growing up in a small town.
I know how to save the gay bars. I know how to save the gay bars.
How?
What we need, basically, something halfway between these apps and the bars. What they should do is they should try to think of like a gay bar sort of an app where you can like order your drinks, order your food through it, submit song requests, and like anybody on the app in the thing is like in proximity, obviously, and have profiles to like that kind of a thing. That could be kind of neat. And then that way, like people who don't like Grindr, they might be like, "Oh, I'll use this app because at least I have to like be in person,"
So is that like that? What is that? That restaurant app like Table or something, but for gays? Like
Gable. Call it Gable. Bam.
Gable.
Send an email.
So you guys, I want to power through these last couple of news stories, because now we're getting into territory of, because I did want to actually talk to Feral Cat about some things having to do with some stuff in his videos where he was talking about feminists taking over gay spaces, and I think that that's relevant to gay bars. So we can get back to the subject of gay bars later. So let's finish with these news stories and then get to that.
Okay. So next up is Conor McGregor. What are we commenting on this about?
I just wanted to. Okay, so this is something I will have a little bit of a. I love Conor McGregor. I can't. It's not a logical thing at all. It's a deep, visceral, like he is my champion kind of a fucking thing. Like where he's, simultaneously kind of cute, simultaneously totally cocky, simultaneously has completely superfluous tattoos, simultaneously is Irish and beats up people that you wouldn't expect him to necessarily be able to beat up, and like he has great little punches, and just there's all of these things about him that like I just can't actually help but love him. I just do. And then there's this controversy that's been going around. And also, he's relevant for the gays because he was actually, I'm not sure if everybody knows this. I actually follow MMA because for some fucking reason I enjoy martial arts. He was a big proponent, a big public endorsement of gay marriage in Ireland. I don't know if he really, really gave a shit. Actually, he probably didn't really. He was probably just cut a really big check to endorse it because he was the biggest Irish celebrity of the moment. Because there's not that many Irish celebrity. Because it's Ireland's not a very big place, and he's a huge international celebrity at the moment. So somebody probably just said, "Hey, we'll pay you however many $1 million to endorse gay marriage," and he did it because the gay marriage vote in Ireland was heavily funded. Like a lot of money from places like the US was going into Ireland getting the gay marriage thing, and people have done videos about it. It's very strange.
Dave Cullen did some videos about it, I believe. He wasn't a big fan.
Yeah. I think he was mostly like I don't know if Dave Cullen really cares a whole bunch about gay marriage. I think he just didn't like the crooked nature of the campaign.
That's mostly what it is. Like, I don't think he gives two shits about gays one way or the other, but he doesn't like people being bullied, but especially Irish people being bullied by outside forces.
Yeah. So Connor was one of the people that sort of like took the money in that thing. And so it's this weird, simultaneously like, well, maybe he took money from the corrupt establishment. Therefore, we should resent him. But also, he did it in the name of supporting the gays, so maybe we should like him. And he's so cute, isn't he cute? But I guess there's been some trash talking for probably well over a year between him and some other fighter. What's the other guy's name?
What is it? Fuck, where is it? Where is he? Oh, Cowley? Is that the other dude?
Yeah, something with a K. And
some Irish named Cowley. That's all I got.
Oh, okay. So there's been a lot of trash talking going on, and I heard that. Actually, you know what? I don't remember exactly the story, but it did amount to Connor and like 30 friends of his trying to like come after some bus with a bunch of other UFC fighters, and then Connor was like throwing shit and breaking windows, and I've seen footage of it. I think Philip DeFranco showed it, and it was pretty intense. So let's read through this.
Was it Floyd Mayweather who you're thinking of?
No, that fight already happened.
Oh, that was just a big fight. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, this is some shit where like there's never Connor has a problem with some other UFC fighter, and it's escalated. And
Chuck Norris is piping up saying that it's Khabib, and will not even begin to pronounce the last name.
Yeah, that guy. That's who it is. And Connor has beef with that guy. Dana White is saying, "Hey, Connor, I will set up the fight. You can fight him." But each of them keeps getting a bunch of their friends involved, and they're like trying to have some sort of like gang fight on the fucking street instead. So yeah.
I just found an article: 8 victims of Conor McGregor's trash talk. This is the best compilation ever.
So and the other funny thing about Connor is that he's been accused of being homophobic because he called another fighter a faggot one time, which like Jesus Christ, I don't care.
I guess I'm a homophobe. I call people faggots all the time. Like it's my job.
Yeah.
So do you want me to read some of the article?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, I'll just start from the top. MMA fighter Conor McGregor turned himself into police Thursday and was arrested and charged with 3 counts of assault and 1 count of criminal mischief after his role in a fracas that left UFC fighter Michael Chiesa in the hospital with a facial laceration. The incident took place after a media event ahead of Sunday's UFC 223 at Barclays Center in Brooklyn. let's see what else. Anyway, skipping down a bit, McGregor appeared in handcuffs Friday afternoon in a packed Brooklyn courtroom where a judge set a bail at $50,000 and set a court date of June 14th. The judge also said McGregor, who is from Ireland, would be allowed to leave the country according to reports. McGregor was held overnight and remained in police custody early Friday morning, according to The Independent, after a rampage apparently directed at a rival fighter who was leaving Barclays Center following an unremarkable media event. MMA fighter said that other Irish guy, McGregor, SBG's teammate, also was charged with 1 count of assault and 1 count of criminal mischief over the incident. Callie's bail was set at $25,000, according to veteran MMA reporter Ariel Helwani, who called this week without question the craziest 5 days in UFC history. And let me skip down to where they actually talk about the rivalry. Did they even talk about the damn rivalry? Okay, so apparently he hates a Russian dude, and that's all I'm really getting out of skimming over this. Doesn't really talk too much about it. Anyway, any further comment before we power through the last two?
No, but I hope that I hope that Conor McGregor doesn't go away because I still like him.
Yeah, he's pretty good looking.
It's not just that he's good looking. There's something I actually like. I feel like I would be friends with him if we hung out. Is the thing.
I like him too. Like it's really funny.
Okay.
Anyways, the next story, which I believe is something Spacepan recommended, is Bob Dylan, Kesha, and St. Vincent turn classic pop songs gay. Oh shit, Kesha! Oh shit, Kesha has sure let herself go.
God, I'm so torn over Kesha.
So wait, Bob Dylan, Kesha, and who?
Someone named St. Vincent.
I don't.
Saint Vincent is shit. What's their actual name? Like they're like a singer. And then there's also someone from Death Cab for Cutie, like half of Death Cab for Cutie. Like one of them has a song. It's an EP, so there's like 6 songs, and each one's by a different artist. And basically, each song is just like they gender flip the lyrics to make them gay. So the idea is it's like a little gay EP of like wedding songs. Personally, I think it's cute. Like,
yeah.
The thing is I don't really like. I'm not really into this kind of shit. Like, I don't like the whole thing of it. Like, I think it's really cheesy, you know. But like, what pisses me off about like the whole gay rights movement is that because of the bullshit that the progressives do and the bullshit that we have in like the history of the gay rights movement, now when you look at shit like this, people will point to it and be like, oh shit, it's the gay agenda. And the problem is that there's actually like are a couple of things that you can point to and be like, yeah, like there is shiesty crap. Like it's not all done in good faith. And like that's kind of my major beef with people who are gay rights advocates is that they make stuff like this that could be kind of just like benevolent. It gets dragged into the shit, you know?
They make it so that you could bracket this in the same thing as queer kids stuff.
Exactly, because the threat narrative is there. So then anything, even if it's not really threatening, can just get packaged into that. But yeah, Kesha actually has done stuff like this before. Like she has her song "Pretty Lady," which is about drag queens. It's like one of her best songs. There's actually like a whole trove of like hidden Kesha music that only the gays know about, and it's actually all really good. Like she's really good.
Yeah, I've liked a few songs of hers, to be honest.
Brat pop. That's also my religion.
So,
yeah, I thought that was a cute little story. I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on it.
I don't have a whole bunch of thoughts. Any more thoughts on?
Nope. Okay, so let's power into the last one, which is Harry Styles is possibly bisexual, maybe.
Who's that?
He's some guy from One Direction who I have actually forgot about since I have not heard of them since high school.
I'm gonna wait for it to show up on the watch screen because we get that delay in the viewingness.
Basically, there's lyrics in his new song that says he might have revealed he's bisexual.
Oh, this guy.
Yeah.
Wait.
Well, that's really 90s.
right?
No, there were a lot of singers during the 1990s that were going around saying they were bi and not actually seeing any guys, but they were sure going to cash in on it.
Uh, yeah, I remember.
Not saying that's the case, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
Well-
yeah. We called them bistratuals.
Well,
Yeah, it's a real shame, to honest to goodness bi guys out there.
Yeah, there are real bi guys, and it's they make people think that there aren't, and it's kind of annoying.
Not to mention all the straight girls who claim to be bi just for the sake of getting gay points.
Oh no, they don't do that anymore. They claim to be, how is it?
Pansexual, non-binary.
Pansexual, non-binary. But
Yeah.
effectively, they're straight girls.
It's same difference but it's same thing, but more of a head injury was involved. So,
or at least HPD.
Yeah. I mean, I made the video. One of my very first videos was it was called trans trenders and bistratuals, and I compared the phenomenon of the two things.
That was you. That was a great video.
Oh, thanks. So, yeah, is that all in the articles?
Unless this last one's kind of the namesake of hold on, I gotta resize it for the people who are watching, but it's basically a gender fluid clothing line project thing that Kat's found.
Oh God.
Yeah, if any of you haven't gotten any alcohol yet, this is probably the time.
I wish I could go get some.
I'm really excited for this. I think you guys are just being negative Nancy's. I think these are cool. I'll rock these.
It's popping up. It should be popping up on the view screen now. It's basically, there's tank tops. I think there's some hats down there. It's all meant to be empowering, and of course the first three are all women, because honestly, who else is non-binary? Oh, Kat's just left.
Yeah, well, they know who they're marketing to, probably.
Angsty lesbians.
Reminds
Dude,
me,
if
I'm
somebody
running
super
low on
chats me
gender
the
fluid,
money.
So, oh yeah, of course, yeah. These are lesbos, or women that lesbos would have crushes on.
Can you guys hear me now? Oh,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I didn't realize that I had gone mute a little while ago, and I thought you guys were ignoring me during the Harry Styles thing.
Oh.
Like I was
No, I'm sorry. I'm just enthralled at all the testosterone on the screen now.
I just want to say one thing because I was screaming about it before. But so the reason that it's relevant, Harry Styles, I know this because my husband's a huge One Direction fan. There was this long bromance that had like whole conspiracy theories about how he and one of the other bandmates were actually in a relationship, and it was actually fairly convincing. But that like there was a lot of like weird videos and clinginess, and so yeah, I actually do believe that he's actually bisexual, possibly.
No, yeah, he's doing it too hard for it to just be like a bistratual thing, I think. Like,
No,
he's
if any of
genuine,
them,
I think.
Yeah, if any of them are actually bisexual, it's Harry Styles, which is also exciting because there's, he's well equipped. But anyway, the clothing line. Sorry.
Yeah, we're on the clothing line one now.
I know.
Anyways, we have 3 lesbians on the screen rocking the whole gender neutral bullshit.
Except for I think certainly the one on the right probably isn't a lesbian. I think that lesbians just are obsessed with trying to find a girlfriend that looks like that.
You mean the black woman or the white lady?
Yeah, the black woman on the right. Like every lesbian wants to date a girl that looks like that, ideally.
Whereas they mostly look like the one
Blanket
underexplored. I think they mostly end up looking either like the other two, but especially the one on the left.
Well, no, I don't think that they get girls that are that skinny, usually. I think that that's extraordinarily rare, unless they live in LA. There's very few lesbians that... No, there are lesbians that are actually that skinny. If you show up to a lesbian bar, it's true. I shouldn't say things like that. It's easy to make fat lesbian jokes, and the stereotype has a lot of truth to it, but it's not entirely true.
And even if it is true, they're certainly not going to plaster it on the clothing line unless it's specific. I think one of the links I sent you, Bacon, was specifically a feminist clothing line, but I don't think even that one showed plus size models because body positivity is just not that sexy.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's a thing. I thought I drank that out of my head. Thanks for reminding me.
It's just funny that they say that these are gender neutral, but are there any men on this website anywhere? I couldn't
there
find
is.
any.
I just scrolled down to what could be the men.
Mhm.
One of them looks like a pink poodle that might be a woman, and then the other one just looks like a normal dude in a God, what are those like those Eastern European like running suits or whatever?
Oh God,
Tracksuits.
Yeah,
yeah,
those.
yeah. He does kind of look like a Russian gangster a little bit with
Yeah.
a. I don't know. Is that like RuPaul in his embryonic stage, like before he?
You know what it is? It's like a romper,
Russian
but like without
gangster
any
and-
shape. It's like a romper bag.
It
Like
is. It's a gay burqa.
I'd wear that. I'd wear that. That's actually kind of like what I wear sometimes. Like,
Outside or just in the house. They look like pajamas here.
like I wear like the Plato's Closet remix of this.
I can't see actual gay guys ever wearing these clothes like
I can,
outside.
because I fucking have, no, I've been to the queer nights, and fucking guys wear this shit. They do.
But not in their daily lives, just at like events and things like that. I don't think that like it's hard to imagine people outside of like a gender studies class or some sort of queer event wearing clothing like this in real life.
I don't think they leave the house unless to go to those things.
They can't take the straight radiation all around them. They have to limit their exposure.
Yeah, they sit around playing like
Tumblr.
Yeah, they go on Facebook and Tumblr and watch, whatever they fucking, I don't know, Steven Universe, and
Which is actually a good show, but
oh yeah, everybody I know says it's actually a pretty good show, but that's
but yes, it is. I will say we should actually, that's actually something we should maybe talk about someday. One cool thing about Steven Universe, off topic, but I'll go back, is that it's one of the only examples of an SJW actually creating their own art piece, like their own SJW style universe, as opposed to just saying like, well, there's this popular show and it doesn't have any of the things that I want in it, so it should be done like this, and this. And it's like, no, Rebecca Sugar actually went through the trouble of making her own shit, which, like it or not, at least she did it. So that makes her like a really rare thing that she actually.
Well, and then her SJW fans like ate her alive at one point, didn't they? Because it wasn't right.
Oh, I mean, you can never please SJWs.
You can never please them. See, I would totally wear that. I'd really wear that yellow thing. I'd hate how they use fishnets though. Like, what the crap is that? And like, did you see on the picture before the short sock fishnet thing he was wearing? Like, not only does it
Actually, I
look
thought that
awful-
was one of those tracking bracelets or anklets they put on you. You know.
No,
on all the gays.
no, Farrell, I know.
Part of the grinder registration, I think.
Yeah.
No, Farrell, you and I know what each other look like. I don't think I couldn't picture you, and I don't think you could picture me in these clothes.
I don't know the guy.
No, I can't picture it, but I do have Photoshop.
Well, yes, that would just be for Halloween, maybe, but definitely.
I would wear that.
Gig towels will not wear these clothes. I just don't see.
I totally would not wear it. I'm talking draft and I'm talking draft at least. You know.
Mm-hmm.
We are open.
When to
We
push it
are
in.
open dialogues. Does that mean that they have a comment section?
I hope so. Do they have a comment section? Social code. I don't. Oh, they do have social medias. They have a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, and a YouTube.
Oh my god, really? They have
Yeah.
a YouTube?
I bet you the comments are already disabled or
Yeah.
they are heavily moderated.
Yeah.
Overall, this could have been a lot more cringy. This is not the first of this that have existed. Like there has been gender neutral clothing lines that are kind of about like this that have sort of come out.
It just reeks of 80s androgyny, but only without like the weird edginess it's like the weird judginess instead of edginess. Like I feel like when people were androgynous in the 80s, they were doing it to be like kind of cool and not so much to make a statement, whereas these people feel like I'm wearing these ugly clothes because I care about gender stereotypes.
Yeah, it's so political. It's like, and like that kind of ruins the fun of it too, because clothing is supposed to be fun.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the difference between all of the other feminist movements. Like the every other incarnation of feminism up until the fourth waivers it didn't have the overt political agenda. I mean, it always did have a sort of a latent underlying planning for the future of political agendas kind of a thing, you know, if you actually really paid real close attention to it. But any sort of tickling of pop culture that it had, any pop cultural influence, wasn't so political, but fourth wave feminism became very, very, very directly political, and it was very, very obvious. So that effect, you know, it's kind of like once it's been tainted, like once everybody knows that, everybody who's it's all tainted. Anything having to do with it, it just becomes so obviously political. Yes, I hope you get what I'm saying.
What's even funnier is if you think about the factories where these clothes are made are doubtlessly not in any way, shape, or form according to intersectional politics.
Oh yeah, just like that. Remember those T-shirts that "This is what a feminist look like" T-shirts, and then they came out that like it was like women like a sweatshop or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Hashtag ironic. Everything's better with a hashtag.
Although I will hold the the anarcho-capitalist line and say that the only reason people work in sweatshops is because it's the least awful of all their alternatives. So that's kind of worth throwing out there.
It's better for them, but it's not so much that the people who are doing the job don't want to be there. Generally, I'm sure they do, and it is a better option than what's available to them. But it's highly hypocritical of these moral purity, holier than thou people to talk about like the impact of like how your shirt, if like having a shirt that's labeled man or woman is like harming people, and yet like it may come from a factory that like where people get burned because of poor safety equipment.
Yeah,
and especially because they're not even going to accept my argument. Like they're not even going to accept if I try to make the argument like actually sweatshops are good. Like they
just don't want to think about it.
Well, yeah. Did the honey badgers do a thing like a week ago talking about how all this fashion like literally dumps literal tons of like toxic waste into all like rivers in third world, and they don't give a shit about that?
Oh yeah, there's no EPA there. There's no regulation. I mean, like it basically like I've watched some of the documentaries, and granted, they may not be 100% objective, but basically the standard for clothing factories is like, do they beat you? Mm-hmm. Does the factory catch on fire? Can you breathe indoors? And do they give you time to eat?
Yeah, you could actually make a rational defense of misogyny on the basis of ecofeminism.
Yeah, I mean,
think about that. Think about your mind fucking breaking from that. Like, how would you strictly eco-feminist standpoints to justify misogyny?
If those ugly gender neutral clothes were made by like a coven of like gay Wiccan or lesbian Wiccans like in Portland or something, like hand stitched out of hemp, then I'd be like, okay, whatever, that you're doing your thing. But they're not, and they're certainly acting like they are.
Sure. Yeah. So it's coming up on 9:30. So I want to steer the conversation towards Feral Cat, our guest, because he's been making videos for only a few weeks now, I believe, and I just discovered them.
And they're awesome.
Yeah, I believe I've seen you around in chats that we've had for a while, and I didn't know you really made videos, and I have been having to travel a lot in my personal life in terms of being on buses, so I listened to them. It's always and remember, new YouTubers, it's always nice to occasionally make videos that you don't have to watch any odd visuals. And you can just listen, because people do totally listen while they are in transit going somewhere. A lot of people listen to my videos that way, so I was able to do that with his videos. And he has a lot of really, really interesting things to say. He's done, so correct me if I'm wrong, you're 40?
Yep.
Okay. And you've done a lot of reading, or maybe you were also there. I don't really know. I don't know your level of personal involvement in the feminist takeover of the GLBT community. When I talk about this stuff, it's mostly comes from my memory, and then I supplement it a little bit with research. But for you, maybe you lived through it, or maybe you mostly did research. I know that you grew up on a farm. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you start wanting to make videos?
Okay, I'm trying to figure out which question to start with.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't a very
So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Yeah, I grew up in the deep south, trying hard not to say where exactly, and then let's see, came out when I was in what 10th grade, something like that. But anyhow, long story short, when I moved out here to the city with my first husband, we ended up having a gay guy as our neighbor, and he was an older gentleman. He was disabled, and he was the funniest, just absolute most brilliant people that I knew of. Thing is, he was actually at Stonewall, so he basically came here for a teaching job, and that's where he decided he was going to settle down. Well, he basically drilled that history into my head. I mean, it was
wait. I need to stop you there because you obviously
course.
you just misgendered this person. Everybody at Stonewall was trans.
I know, and get this. He was white.
Okay.
He was white and male.
I
and
know,
at
scandal.
Stonewall?
I think he was like the only one there or something.
Okay, Bacon, kick him off the stream now. We need to private this and contain it.
Yeah,
Someone call the
free
80 out
speech.
right now.
Yeah, quarantine this information.
All right, I'm okay. Quarantine protocols are in place. I'm getting out the gallon of bleach, getting ready to take a drink. I'm sorry.
You should be.
But no, seriously, David was there, so
yeah, the real history is coming out. Keep dishing.
I wish I had half the stuff that he ended up telling me about his time out there. But his my understanding from him was that Stonewall was not a drag bar, and keep in mind, trans really wasn't much of a word back then. Let alone they didn't have the trans trenders either, which is what they're trying to push to say was the ones that ended up doing this. It was a guy's bar. Now there were some every now and then drag queens that were allowed in. It wasn't all that common. The groups were very fragmented at the time.
Yeah, I remember hearing. I mean, the takeaway that I kind of got from the research that I did, some number of months ago, and I was really looking into it, was basically that this was the poor person's gay bar in New York City, and during the time there was probably a number of places that gay guys liked to frequent, but those were gay guys who were rich enough to be able to maintain being closeted. But if you weren't able to maintain being closeted, you would go to Stonewall, and there's a lot of them were like prostitutes and that kind of thing. Is that?
Pardon?
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Hold on a sec. I just sat back down and ended up hitting the keyboard. So let me get the watch screen back up. Now, you were saying?
Oh, I was just saying that Stonewall, from my understanding, was mostly just really the poor gay guys bar for and everybody knew it was a gay bar. Like it was complete. It was like the one bar in the city that everybody knew this is where gay guys go. Yeah, that was sort of my understanding of it.
That seems about accurate.
Okay. So you were talking more about this guy. You learned from him, and he started sort of educating you about a bit of gay history that you did or did not know about.
Mm-hmm. He sure did.
And you from there, you started educating yourself. Had you lived in big cities prior to that at all? Like, had you been around the gay community a lot?
Not a whole lot. See, really, in fact, wasn't around it until my ex and I decided that we were going to move here to the city that I'm in now, which is all of 100,000 people. So not a huge gay community there.
Okay.
One of my favorite things about Farrell's content is, even though Prince, you and I kind of coined the term gigtow, like you and I weren't 100%, and I was like more into it than you were. Neither one of us were particularly sure kind of how to flesh it out more. And his videos, as you know, are just really in depth. Like they really resonate with what it means to be like a man and a homosexual and why GGTOW is necessary.
Yeah, I would say that I concur with like if I were to have come across somebody that would be a prime example of a GGTOW specimen, so far from my understanding it would be Feral Cat. Correct me if I'm
I
wrong,
think
but
so.
it seems to be what you're kind of going for with your channel. And I noticed that, okay, in listening to it, this is an observation, and I want you to just sort of give your thoughts about yourself when I say, but after I say this, tell me what you're going for. This is what I thought that you were going for, and I encourage everybody to go check out his channel because these are quite interesting videos. You have a specific vision of what you want GGTOW, gays going their own way, to be for you. And it has to do with masculinity and your own masculinity and helping other gay men claim their own masculinity so that they can live successful, happy, healthy lives as men outside of any outside influences. However, you are aware that that will look different to every single guy, so you're not
I should hope
necessarily,
so.
yeah, so and that's part of masculinity, and so you're not necessarily trying to be like the guru that is leading everybody, because you want people to find the meaning for themselves.
Okay, well, first off, if I'm the guru, I'll just go ahead and lay this out. We're all screwed. So let's go ahead and let's not do the whole guru thing. Basically, for me, what I'm looking into is okay, I'm going to break this down, like I would to a small child. Boys and girls are different. All right. I mean, our brains are different, our bodies are different. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but they just don't work in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with psychology. The life that we're optimized for is going to be very different than the life that women are optimized for. What makes us happy is not going to be the same. And with guys, in a way, we kind of have it easier because as far as sexual selection goes, and that's what drove our biology to or rather our biology to be different also caused our brains to develop differently. Trying to figure out the best way to put this. Sorry I didn't have this prepped.
There's
By the way, I just want to point out, Feral Cat, from what I understand, has studied a lot of neuroscience.
Originally meant to be a doctor, did not happen.
Okay.
Never quite caught on. But so anyway, the thing is when and keep in mind, society has only been around for maybe 1% of the time that human beings have been on the planet. All that time, we basically had labor divided up. Men were on the perimeter. Women basically ended up having to stay close to the center, and take care of the children. So we had to protect from the outsiders. We spent a lot of time, with other men, but the main point is what made us happy was in that role in the perimeter, protecting, defending, exploring, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's still true, honestly. There's this wonderful Norwegian documentary, which I don't remember the Norwegian name, but it's translates to, I think, Brainwashed, where they really started talking in depth before anyone else was about how there is a lot of research indicating that babies, from the moment, basically the moment we're born, male babies and female babies are different. Male babies prefer objects, yeah, and women prefer people, and it makes sense because coming back to what you're saying, like kind of an evolutionary psychology perspective, we were the tool, men were the tool users, we were the ones out there doing the dangerous peripheral work, and the women were the ones that were tending to, as you said, the young and to the elderly and people, and they're both different. It's the division of labor is important and different because that's how a tribe operates, by specializing.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's
So what is? Oh,
no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna ask, what is your vision of why do you think that GigTow is particularly important at this moment in time, to the point where you want to endorse it and you want to participate in it and you want to endorse other guys doing it? Because we're still hashing the whole GigTow thing out. Like, we're making it up as we go along.
Well, to be honest, and I cannot speak for the larger cities, just for the part of the states that I'm in, but from what I hear, it's pretty similar in other areas too. Gay culture basically has been, what's the word, kind of taken over by the SJW mindset, and of course that.
Appropriated.
Oh well, definitely, definitely. Hijacked, I think is the word that I would use for it.
Yeah,
But at the
yeah,
same
yeah.
time,
Hostile takeover.
and we're also seeing that gay men, especially, I hate saying this, and I don't mean anything rude by it, but we're freaking miserable.
Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting things you brought up, Farrell, in one of your other videos is how SJWs are dominated by women and by a female mentality, and why that that urge to take care, that urge to mother, and
Oh, it's more than that. The urge of the in group as well. I mean, good example. Women tend to rate as. Are you familiar with the Big Five?
vaguely, but why don't you spell it out like everyone else isn't?
Okay, all right. The Big Five is one of the tests that they are one of the assessments that they use for determining personality types, and each one of the 5 functions of it corresponds to physiological differences in the brain. Well, women, for example, they tend to rate higher in a trait called agreeability.
Oh yeah,
Now,
Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot.
big time, and in fact, he's a great resource if you want to learn more about that. So, anyhow, sorry, I'm kind of losing my train of thought here.
You're doing good.
But the thing is, with the trait of agreeability, that's agreeability to the in group that you're in. I mean, pardon?
No, sorry, just with you. Sorry, yeah, just keep
Okay.
going.
Sorry. But that trait of agreeability is focused, strictly speaking, on your in group, and you will see that gets weaponized by women. A good example: you ever had have you ever been around little kids?
Yep.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
You notice that boys fight a little differently than girls fight.
Yes.
Much more aggressively.
Well,
Rough
not
and
just
tumble.
that, but it's I'm talking the whole method that they fight with. Women tend to work more with relational aggression, basically excluding others from the group. That's their punishment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times? Well, I can't tell you how many times that I heard my niece, tell some other kid that she was pissed off at. Fine, you're not coming to my birthday party. That's prime example.
Yeah,
of an early age version of it.
It's Mean Girls versus Fight Club. I mean, I don't know. Like, when men have aggression, it comes boiling out of us, often with explosive force. And when women have it, they turn it. They suck it inward and then turn it into, as you said, a weapon. And by grabbing other people and making them help them do their bidding.
Yeah. Like, the joke I make, I just made this about the YouTube shooting is, it wasn't toxic femininity because she got crazy and shot up the place. It would have been toxic femininity if she got a guy to do it for her and then blamed it on toxic masculinity.
That is flawless.
Yeah,
that is perfect.
It's funny how they don't even want to say that toxic femininity is a thing. They always want to say that there's there's no there is white privilege, but there's no black privilege. There's toxic masculinity, no toxic femininity.
Well, don't you know, cats? Black people and women are basically animals.
I don't.
At least if you're
an animal.
you're an SJW, you're an animal. Well,
But no, it really does tie into the whole like we don't see female evil and female aggression, and it's because it's less obvious. But like at the same time, that whole perspective is so disingenuous because we all grow up with this shit. Like we all know that girls and women are more likely to use relational aggression. They're more likely to use proxy violence. They're more likely to do these kind of more subtle forms of abuse. But like just because it's less obvious, I guess we don't perceive it, and like it actually is a serious problem because we just don't perceive it to the like banning someone from a birthday party. That actually kind of is more severe than like punching someone in the face to
does
in
much
some
longer.
ways,
Keep in mind, to a 5-year-old, that's like sending someone to Siberia, you know?
yeah.
It's much
It's like
longer
you to
term
the
damage.
gulag.
Also, a little.
yeah, the little things are the big things when you're a kid.
Well, also one thing I wanted to point out is I've
Sure.
having my own mental health care and whatnot. Actually, isolating someone socially is actually more damaging than just beating them because you're fucking
Much.
with their like the foundational like their mental state rather than just hitting them.
Well, yeah, like in prison, putting someone in solitary confinement is one of the most cruel and unusual things that you can do to anyone. It is the most damaging thing. I mean, people can withstand torture. They can withstand, verbal, physical abuse. I mean, it hurts, but no one is immune to solitary confinement. You will lose your ability to function as a human being. The way our brains operate literally starts to break down when we don't have daily constant stimulation from other people.
We're social animals, of course.
I mean, what's more terrifying to a primate that has a tribe than being by yourself? It's literal death. We start to panic.
So
And also, in the comments here, Chris Breyer just mentioned women are like more likely to use like a weapon than a man when it comes to domestic violence. The other part about domestic violence is the whole emotional abuse angle too. Is that it gets swept under the rug, and like what's really really shitty about it is that these things are harmful and are evil and bad to do. But when people do them, they kind of get a pass. They're like seen as being more merciful and more virtuous, even though it actually could be something worse than a physical alternative. Sorry,
And-
that was all I thought.
No, and that's actually a really good segue to tie back into Feral Cat's videos, because he talked about one of the things that he's really on about in his videos is the ways in which the feminist mentality has indoctrinated the seeming majority of the gay male community into thinking that it's weak and dependent upon feminists. And that's something that I've really, really noticed, and I've seen as a pattern of female abuse. Like, I actually lived with a straight couple that was an abusive couple, and occasionally the guy would hit the girl, but it was but all day every day she was making him feel like shit, and that she deserved better, but meanwhile she would never leave him. And it was like, she was the one that was making him feel like he was a horrible person, that he didn't deserve her, blah 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 blah. Meanwhile, she could have left at any moment, and then occasionally he would snap and hit her. And that's kind of what it was. And it's almost like we have a little bit of a massive version of that going on with the gay male community, and with the mostly female feminists that have, for whatever reason, decided to take us over.
Only we don't even hit back.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the point. We are the of all the different types of guys out there, we are the kind that is the least likely to push back. I think that's kind of made us their favorite target here lately.
They think we're begging for it, that we're just big old doormats that like they can do this to, and
we let them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it probably was harder before they infiltrated all our organizations, and that is, that's how women operate. When they want to, beat someone down, they don't come at them like a man does. Of course, they'd come at like a woman, which is behind and sideways and over the like you were saying, Prince, with that woman. She was actually in charge, even though, I mean, yes, he had the force. He probably thought he was in charge, but really she was the one, that every day was just, grinding him down a little bit at a time. And when you really look at the overall trend, she was the one that he was probably more afraid of than she was afraid of him.
Oh, absolutely. I know that has to be the case because, like, not to get too sidetracked with this story, but she was living with us. Like, technically I moved in with him because I needed a place in Brooklyn, and it was a cool loft. I thought we could throw parties, even though I didn't know if he was that cool. Turns out we couldn't throw any parties because fucking psycho ass relationship. So she was living with us free of rent, tormenting him all day, every day, talking shit about him to me and our other roommate every time he wasn't around. And like, they'd scream at each other fucking every goddamn night. Occasionally he would snap and hit her. He could have, theoretically tried to kick her out, but she probably had told him, if you ever kick me out, I'm going to the cops.
Yeah, and that's very typical of female abuse. Like, a lot of times they will almost, well, basically encourage the man to hit the woman so that they have that leverage. And even if he doesn't, like, they know the way the system is set up now that it's, I mean, what do the police tell you? Like, if you, like, when a man calls the cops to say his wife is attacking him, he said, you better get out of there, because if she breaks a nail or bruises herself while hitting you, like, we'll have to take you in.
Yeah.
Because of course, I think maybe the reason the feminists have started coming after us is because the only real defense we have against them in those kind of situations is that the presumed lack of, sexual culpability whenever they about harassment or physical violence, because we wouldn't have that kind of a relationship presumably with a lesbian. And so now they're just trying to break down gender. Now they're trying to say that we're the misogynists, and I don't know what their goal is other than total, abject victory over everyone and everything.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of.
I wish they'd clue me in.
I have a lot of videos about how exactly I think it ended up this way. Like why it got to be the point that one of the big strongholds that feminists feel that they have is the LGBT community. They think that is something that they have in the bag and is one of their safe zones. Like, they think that they think in their heads that the last thing that they're going to lose is the gays. And to the point where they've really, really abused us. And more and more people are starting to realize that we don't know them anything.
So they think
very similar to how it is with black people. I was gonna say the blacks.
The Democrats and African Americans, I think you're trying to say. I was going to say the way kind of like the US UK relationship, but that's actually better.
But one of the things that Feral Cat looked into in his research from his first video was the way in which feminism sort of wormed its way philosophically into gay spaces, and then took it over and made them into quote unquote queer spaces, which really just means feminist spaces. You did a lot of you dotted a lot of lines of research that I had already sort of done. But
well, let me give you a good reference source then. Look into the work of Bruce Bauer. He ended up supplying a lot of that, especially about the development of postmodern theory and postmodern feminist theory and how it developed into postmodern queer theory.
Okay, Bruce Bauer?
Bawer.
Hey, could the Cats, you run this channel, could you put Bruce Bauer into the video description of this so that people can take a look for themselves? Would that be cool?
At this point, Bacon is actually much more, but yeah, I can try.
Whoever is the one who would be doing that, and make sure to and make sure to put Feral Cat's channel in the description as well, of course.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll send you the channel and the link. Bacon.
So yeah, but why don't you give us a brief rundown of because I've made at least 5 or 6 or 7 videos about why feminists and feminist politicians sort of ended up becoming so attached to gay men and the gay male vote over some sort of weird process of AIDS happened, and then like gay guys hated Republicans, so they started relying on us, and then it was easy to sort of like feminize us because lesbians were in charge and blah blah. Like I've talked about that, but I didn't really talk about the specifics uh of queer theory and postmodernism and how that morphed. Could you give everybody a rundown of that?
Well, let's see. Let's say it was late 80s, early 90s when this was going on. Now, the women's departments had just recently gotten started in the universities. They had absolutely no ties back to the hard sciences. They had basically been told, okay, here's this money. Go forth, make a department that will get folks off of our freaking backs. And they did that. Pardon?
Who gave them the money?
My understanding is it was the universities themselves were under the pressure to do this. I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's always what I had guessed personally, was that there was a bunch of fucking feminists who were in university in some capacity or another, and they were probably protesting, the presidents of the universities and calling them misogynists and stuff. And then they were like, okay, fine, you can have your little women's studies thing, you can have your own department, just fucking leave me alone.
Basically, yeah. But so anyhow, that developed into other groups that wanted to have their own departments as well. And among those, as gay people got to be more popular in larger urban areas, we ended up getting the queer studies program. Now, that was based around queer theory, which was quite literally feminist theory that had just had a few things crossed out. And that's why they say, that homophobia, for example, is due to misogyny, as ridiculous as that sounds.
Yeah.
I mean, patriarchy is the root of all evil. Everything in queer theory basically breaks all human interaction down to power. It's the exact same thing.
It's such a simplistic worldview that it really...
Oh my God, it is.
It just makes me so sad that people can pretend that you can use... That people believe that if you use enough jargon, enough isms, enough posts, that you can take something that's so simple and wrong and believe that you're smart. Like, you have a PhD in what might as well be Teletubbies. In fact, I'd probably have more respect for you.
Where are you knocking my degree in Teletubbies? I worked hard for that.
University of Phoenix.
No, I went to DeVry.
Oh boy.
I just wanted to speak to the point about people try to argue that homophobia is rooted in misogyny, because like it's such a horrible argument. Like, it's super easy to debunk, and then when you do it, what you reveal is that the person just has absolutely no capacity to talk about these issues or even to empathize. Because like, I remember I had a friend, she's a straight woman, and she said to me like, oh well, homophobia isn't that's part of misogyny and part of patriarchy or whatever. And I'm like, so you're a straight woman who's attracted to men and has like no social stigma, and then I have the same attraction, but because I'm male, I experience these things, right? So like, what's literally being erased is the maleness, and that's what their rhetoric is actively doing, and you see them doing it, and like, when you realize that, when it clicks, that it's like, wow, like the people who spread this rhetoric, they can't possibly conceivably be interested in not only not in understanding these problems, but not in solving them either, So it's just, when you deconstruct it that way, just break it down, like, okay, like compare a gay male to straight male, or I'm sorry, gay male to straight woman, and like, what's the difference here, and how exactly are you going to argue that a particular attitude directed specifically only at males who have, this proclivity or whatever, and not to females, that this is because we hate women somehow?
Yeah,
Yeah, but you got to remember, we're also, if you go back to the feminist writings of the 1960s Red Stockings movement, we're also misogynist because, first off, we're men, and secondly, because we reject women.
Yeah.
Right. I will say, though, the Red Stockings did do some good work exposing Gloria Steinem.
Mm-hmm.
This is true.
So, throw them a bone where they earn it, but, well, I guess maybe they don't want bones, but
yeah.
They want empty tuna cans.
There we
I
go.
just think the easiest
Wow.
the easiest way to if you ever hear from a feminist and you're talking about gay men at all, and they say either one of two things, ask them if they think that the other is true, which is obviously all homophobia is rooted in misogyny, which is a very common one, and then the other one is gay men are often even more misogynistic than straight men. And so you say, hey, so if all homophobia is rooted in misogyny and gay men are often even more misogynistic than straight men, wouldn't that mean that gay men are often even more homophobic than straight men? That's what you're saying now. And watch them cry.
Internalized homophobia. I mean, all the cure to any like defeat of their ideology is just to say that you have internalized X. It doesn't even matter what, but if it's internalized,
Well, it doesn't matter because it boils down to internalized misogyny anyhow.
it's
You
all
can
That's
also
the grand
argue
unified
that
theory.
you
It's
can
all-
argue that logic is phallocentric too. That's another good one to get out of.
how
Every
dare
every
you
prob-
use the penis?
every problem that exists in the world is because someone was mean to them sometime because they were a girl.
You know, all equations are kind of shaped like penises. Like the equal sign is ensuring we have the shaft,
Yes.
and
You know, a
Parentheses
lot of
are
people
balls.
believe that, but that's really a fallacy.
Although, one comment I want to make on the whole gay guys being more homophobic. Why does every basic white girl want a gay best friend then? If
Oh my
if you guys are
God.
supposedly horrible.
Like we're pets.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that.
Well,
like
that's
a purse dog.
well, that's the straight girl, I guess, version, the dumbed down version of what the feminists are doing.
Actually, I ended up getting a friend like that now that I think about it. It's one of my coworkers wanted to basically cart me around and all this kind of stuff. And, well, the thing is, me and her husband ended up hitting it off. Now he's one of my shooting buddies. So it's
What are
like,
you
yeah,
shooting, Pharaoh?
wouldn't you like to know?
I would like to know.
They're not blanks.
So
Walther P99 if you wanted to know, but still.
so let's bring it back to the GigTow thing. Exactly. Where I want to hear a little bit more about your vision of it, and maybe give the audience a little bit of a preview for your channel, because this is going to be an ongoing thing, is your vision for GigTow. And personally, I don't really have a vision for GigTow, and I don't even consider myself GigTow actually. Like I don't set parameters for my social life. I will talk to anyone that I think is cool, and I certainly currently am hanging out with all of the GigTows, and maybe even started the clubhouse. But I'm not a GigTow. I have no idea where it's going, and I want to hear from someone who has some ideas about where it could be going.
Well, let's see. Basically, I think if we're going to move beyond where we are now in relation to the to what the feminists have basically talked us into doing to ourselves, I'm trying hard not to say what they did to us, because quite frankly,
We let them do it to us.
we let them do it, and we have got to stop that. It's like an abused spouse, you know. I mean, sometimes you got to pack up your stuff and get out of there. So basically, what we need to do, what I think we need to do, is we need to take a good look at the expectations that we're setting for ourselves. I'm noticing that a lot of these are really, really low. I mean, that's the worst kind of prejudice that you can find, is low expectations. But we need to take a look at those and decide what we want to keep and what we need to get rid of, and what would be in our best interest to get rid of. Like, I think the whole victim complex, we don't need that. I mean, they want to talk like we're, just in this country where there's bigots everywhere. I hate to tell you, but the area that I live in is considered by many to be one of the most bigoted places on earth, and it's not. I feel absolutely safe out here. It's ridiculous. So I think we need to get rid of that persecution complex and start building ourselves up.
Yeah, one of the things that I have taken from your videos, Farrell, which I'm incorporating into my own, and just so everyone knows, like I actually watch Farrell, or I should say, listen to Farrell's videos often. I think I've listened. You only have three, but I've listened to each of them at least about 3 or 4 times. Like I don't know. If nothing else, I just like listening to his voice. It's very, calming, like a mantra. I think that one of the things that is important about GigTow, it's not so much that we have to, like stop talking to all the other letters. It's more like we have to reclaim the idea that gay is not just a province in a giant, federation of weird sexual identities and different politics, that we are our own distinct thing, and we have no obligations to anyone else. I think that's what the problem is it was fine when we were all together as equals, but now they're starting to put more and more demands on it. Like the other letters have started encroaching. You can almost, to bring it to America, you could almost kind of liken it to states' rights versus federal overreach. And the feminists are definitely trying to be the federal government.
Yeah, they want to
comparison.
They want to buy a new car, they get to choose it, and we all know who's paying the bills.
Yeah. I think we need to set boundaries, let them know, like, okay, you know what? If you're going to keep talking like this, then we're just going to go. Like, we don't necessarily want to, but we're more than happy to do so, and you need us way more than we need you.
I think the other portion of that is and I'm going to use the unwanted spelling of it, just to kind of differentiate between the two. The LGBTQ and all that other stuff community has also been extremely insular. It's basically been, the straights out there, and then us way the hell over here, and we need to cut that shit out.
Yeah, we need to stop believing that
straight men are out to get us.
Totally, because honest to God, like, at least currently, maybe it was different in the past. It probably was different in the past, but these days, like, all of my best friends are straight dudes. Like, the idea that gay guys
awesome.
Yep,
Same here.
I mean, the idea that like that we need, we need the lesbians and everyone else to protect us. We're not victims. Like, we just have to be okay. I mean, yes, there are some assholes out there, and there are some dangerous places for anyone. But
absolutely.
we're big boys. We can handle it. It's the world. Yeah, the world is not a. The world is not a horror movie, and we are not the dumb blondes running around waiting for someone to stab us in the breast. Like, we are the protagonists of our own stories. And you know what? I plan on making it to the end of the movie, and goddamn it, I'm going to be in the sequel.
You are the hero you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
There is one thing I wanted to kind of point out, though, is that like with this whole insular gay community, it's like it has some parallels to feminist indoctrination and the way that feminism makes people kind of fear and distrust men. But the comparison is really interesting, because I think that, I don't know, like when I just look at my own experience, like the feminist narrative actually like captured me from the beginning of my life, as it does most people, which is why we have the term red pill, because like people need to be red pilled. Like you have to learn, like you have to unlearn all of the bullshit. But like with the gay community, I never had that sort of like original sin style born into this weird gay thing, because I was always kind of libertarian. Like I had developed those views before accepting being gay. So then whenever they try to paint these narratives of like, oh, conservatives are all a bunch of Southern Bible thumping hicks, like I would just be like, you guys are hysterics. Like it. So I've always, I don't know, gays hate me because I don't get along with them. But
yeah,
you know what I mean? But it's an interesting parallel, because like with the gay thing, it totally is like a purely artificial thing. And like to me, I don't know, I just see it as really like easy, just I find it hard to believe that anyone buys into it. Maybe it's people who are less politically minded, they're more vulnerable to it. I don't know. But like with the overall feminist narrative, that actually manipulates you at a level that's within like your reptilian fucking psychology. So
I don't know. I think that really hits when people are at their most vulnerable. Like, for example, internalized fears of how relatives or friends might take it. And yeah, you may actually lose friends when you come out. That puts someone in a vulnerable position. I mean, that's our tribe. And I think that's where those where that victimhood narrative, where it has its most effect on us when we're at our most vulnerable.
Yeah, and when that's where the proliferation of the all homophobia is rooted in misogyny myth comes from, is they use that to prey upon particularly feminine men, and they say, oh well, don't you get a lot of rejection and bullying? Well, do haven't you noticed that the guys who are masculine get a lot more guys than you? Haven't you noticed that the guys who are more masculine don't get picked on as much as you do? And they say, yeah, that's true. Oh my god, you're right.
Yeah, and actually, while you're on the topic about the men that aren't perceived as less masculine, I want to make absolutely sure, because I'm not sure if I make it clear in my videos, I don't want to exclude anyone from that. In fact, the way I determine masculinity, it's primarily based around one thing, and that one thing is self-reliance. I have met some men that might be considered feminine, but at the same time, they have that drive to basically get things done themselves, not depend on anybody, and basically, ride their own coattails up to success.
You know who's actually one of the best illustrations of that, and I didn't mean to make a pun, but I just did, is what's his name? Oh god, I've forgotten his name now because I haven't seen it. The gay guy on Archer. What is his name?
Ray.
Ray.
Oh yeah.
Because Ray is super flamboyant, super queeny, but he's also he's a badass, and he's completely independent. And that's the way the creator of the show wanted, who's also the voice of Ray, by the way. He never actually intended for Ray. Yeah, he's the voice of Ray, and he never actually intended for Ray to be a permanent character, but the character was so popular, and then he decided, like, I believe, tell me if I'm misquoting or misremembering, but I believe he said that he liked the idea that Ray was, a super gay guy who was also a guy. Because the fact that we have to make that distinction, I think, is largely that is homophobic. The idea that, like, as you said, that, like, a guy, that we have to even make the distinction. Like, okay, so someone in the comments was asking, I think it was Chris Breyer was asking.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think he was asking. No, about this. He was asking, like, gay guys, does it annoy you when people say who is the man and who's the woman? And I answered, yes, because I don't. It's this idea that, just because you're like a bottom or you're feminine or you're top and you're masculine, those are not. I mean, how many super butch bottoms have we met, and how many, like, super flamboyant tops have we met?
I can give you a couple of examples of each around here.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's really, a lot of it just boils down to, like, people don't really. There are a lot of things about gay guys that people don't really understand. Like, whenever my straight guy friends, like, when we started talking about it more honestly, because we got to that point where it was weird, and the concept of tops and bottoms, for instance, my best friend was initially just utterly mystified by the idea, because and that mystified me, because, like, I was asked, it's like, so what, you just thought that we were all going around just like, like tops, like actual spinning tops, just like, okay, today I'm a top, like, we're just going back and forth all the time. There are no preferences there. It's not like roles per se, but everyone has what they prefer. Some people like to do both, and some people really just have one thing that they like.
So I have more questions for Feral Cat. You mentioned something about self-reliance, and I think that's that does seem to be a very strong theme in your video, because you had the whole story about
my nephew.
Yeah, you had that, and I want to talk about that more in general, but I want to ask you first. I don't know what the hell the log cabin Republicans are. I never actually learned, like, what their deal is. But are they into being self-reliant? Like, is that part of the thing with them? I just don't know.
To be real honest, I mean, I just red pilled myself less than a few months ago, so I'm still trying to figure stuff out.
Okay.
Now, I've heard of the log cabin Republicans, and I know what they are, but as far as their actual stances, I'm just not qualified to speak for them.
Okay.
All I know about them is that they tend to be like, well, at least the stereotype. So I shouldn't say I know, but like what we're told by people is that the log Republicans are bad gays because they value money and above like being part of the community. And now that being who I am now, I'm starting to think maybe that's a bit of a propaganda. I will say, however, though, it has always confused me because while I understand that the Democrats are kind of like feminism in that, like, they pigeonholed us gays into one place and that's how we're supposed to operate.
That's their plantation.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe that, at least for the longest period of time, republicanism was a very good place for us to live either. Now that might be changing now, but for a long time, my biggest concern was like, okay, why? Why are you doing this? In my past, I used to think it was like being a black Klansman. It's like,
well, first off, let's rewind a bit and put things into their appropriate time period here. Back in the 80s, the Republican Party itself had lost quite a bit of power. And in order to get their numbers back up, they ended up striking a deal with the religious extremists. And they pretty much ran the party for a good 20 years. Now those factions that are making things up, now they're starting to kind of have a little bit of infighting, but for a while it was a solid block that way. If they wanted the fiscal conservatives on hand, then they would have to put up with the family values conservatives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then gay people naturally, there was just a massive amount of homophobia was the norm during the AIDS crisis. It was sort of the standard that icky, gross gay men, they're gonna, don't let them eat at the same restaurant as you because they're gonna sneeze and you're gonna die. And so that was
like
the
Resident
Reagan years.
Evil.
That was the Reagan
G-Virus.
years, and that the Republican Party, Reagan didn't really care about the AIDS crisis as much as people say that he should have, even though he actually was an actor that had a lot of gay friends and blah, blah, blah. So it was really, really easy for Clinton to go in there and start appealing to the gay vote. It just fell into his lap, and and the Democratic Party has never given it up as a voting bloc. They've just assumed that the gays will stay with them, and that divide happened very pragmatically due to the history of what was going on at the time. But back to this self-reliance thing I want to talk about, because I definitely I really think that there's a lot of truth to that, in terms of like what masculinity is, and in terms of biologically, masculine people being the providers, being the people that go and forage for food and fend for their tribe and everything. But something that's weird. It's something that's I don't want to say unsettling, but it's hard for me to reconcile in my head. I feel gay men need community more than straight men in a way, and that's something that I feel.
I agree.
I disagree.
Okay.
I don't think straight men get enough community.
Well, let me finish my thoughts, and then I want to hear your thoughts, because I think that this is something that I anticipated, that I sort of feel differently, which is one of the reasons that you and I are pretty different people, and I find you fascinating. So for me, and I feel like my feelings are probably more in the majority opinion of gay men around this. And maybe I have something to learn from you in this way. I think that gay men, because of the fact that we don't raise families organically, like we don't just pair up and start having kids, and I think that there's deep psychological ramifications. Like, it's not like we think in the back of our minds that maybe we're gonna someday, like,
I keep trying.
yeah. No,
we have to switch to like boxers or something, but
yeah. We know that we're not gonna have kids. We know that we aren't gonna have this family unit, and that we're gonna end up moving into a neighborhood where there's lots of other people who have kids, and our kids will be friends with their kids, and that's just how life is going to be. We know that we don't have that, so we have to form our own community, which is its own unique culture, and it's very, very distinct, and I think that that's very important amongst gay men. I was actually just watching this movie, this really good movie actually, called Iris. It's about this fashion icon woman who's about 94, and she's worked in the fashion industry for 75 years, and she's most famous at this point just for putting on crazy outfits and being a crazy old lady that, you know, puts together crazy outfits. And it was funny because it was like all the different gay guys that she knows. Like, she knows more gays than Studio 54. And and it was reminding me of, like, you know, just that movie came out a few years ago. I think it came out in 2014, like right before the SJWs obliterated gay culture. And it reminded me of just how rich, because, like, I don't think there was a fucking straight guy in the movie besides her husband. And there's so many, like, gay guys can be so talented and interesting, and there's so much culture that is with them, and I think that that's really, really great about gay men. And I see something when I look at and think about GigTow. I think that if GigTow is going to survive, it has to celebrate that, and it has to accept that we need each other. I think that self-reliance can come into play when we talk about self-reliance in relation to the other letters of the soup, but we also have to accept that as gay men, we have to put effort towards community, and it doesn't just form organically in the way that it does with straight people, where it's like, oh, our kids are playing with each other's kids out in the street, and then we should go to the PTA with each other, and then blah 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 blah. No, we have to work for it. And yeah, I don't really know where I'm going with that exactly. I'm you know, we're making this up as we go along. I want to hear your thoughts.
Oh, can I butt in before
Oh, yes,
Carol?
please.
Yeah, sorry, I've been kind of quiet. I've been fucking with the computer and in a Benadryl haze. But
Nice.
yeah, Katch probably knows what we live in a similar area, so we probably know what that's up. Anyways, my thought, like, with gay men, bi men, whatever, is that we need to have either, like with Jews and other, like in Europe, you either need to have an area that's ours, or we need to have something that, like, takes the place of temple. Because, like, I've met a lot of Jews, especially here near San Francisco, where they're not very religious anymore, but the temple is their community. It's what keeps their identity together.
Cultural
And
Judaism.
yeah, we kind of need something like that, where it's either we're all gonna live in the same neighborhood, or we're gonna have like some sort of, like, non-bar institution that'll, like, hold us together as something.
One of the things that Farrell and I actually both agreed would be really cool is something that they have in Australia and a bunch of other European countries now.
The sheds.
Yeah, men's sheds. Like, they're mostly male only spaces where men get together and they, like, build stuff, and they, like, teach each other how to do woodworking, and, like, it's really interesting. Maker spaces, like, and there is a men's shed association in America, but there's only 2 men's sheds in all of America right now, and there's like thousands in Australia and England, or I think there are thousands. There's quite a few. And that's something which I think it would be great for men in general, but particularly for gay men, because I think, to what you're saying, Prince, and then I'll let Farrell talk, is that men need each other, gay and straight, and I think that that's something that, like, we as gay men, as GigTows, really need to learn how to do, is, like, to reclaim the ability to have relationships with straight men just as well as we do with gay men, because we're, you know, at the end of the day, we're really not that different.
No, we just have different porn.
Yeah, basically. Sean Cody versus I don't know, whoever the other ones are.
Them other folks.
Sean Cody is the best.
Besides Treasure Island Media.
Whoa. Somebody's hardcore.
I actually I'll tell you guys in private which Treasure Island guy I actually knew in real life and hung out with a number of
Jeez. Wow.
I I almost got a job there years ago as a cameraman, but I was too clean cut.
Yeah, no, I was totally personal friends with one of them, and you guys will probably know who he is, and you'll laugh a lot. Oh, I was just gonna say about the shed thing. There's cottage parties. Did you ever hear about that concept?
Never heard of her.
No, I'm kind of lost here. Go for it.
So this is something that I read about when I was a kid, where gay men would apparently have things called cottage parties, which would be in the countryside, and they'd just be like they'd basically turn some rental house or some shit into a bathhouse where everybody would be fucking everywhere. Which
Fun.
I had only heard about it as some sort of a tall tale, like maybe that stopped happening after a certain time. But I went to one. I ended up going to a cottage party outside of San Francisco, and I didn't really know what it was going to be, but it was that, and yeah, it was pretty intense. So those kind of things do happen, but it wasn't positive. Like all it was sex. Like what bugs me is that like there is this like rich culture of gay men who do fashion and design and theater and writing and all these other things that that often happen in urban meccas, and I want to preserve that. I also want to expand it into more masculine things that are not so traditionally gay, because I think that the cultural climate might have that might be more permissible in contemporary cultural climate. Like we don't have to hide in big cities and confine ourselves to stage design or whatever we used to do.
Forests.
Yeah, we don't have to do that anymore. But
And I think we also. Oh, go ahead.
But at the same time, I think that we need each other, and the self-reliance. I just don't know if that's the right word for it. But why don't maybe you should try to sell me on it.
Maybe we have the same word we're using for different concepts here.
Yeah.
By
please do.
self-reliant, I definitely don't mean shaving your head, giving away your material possessions, and moving off to the desert to be a
Okay,
hermit.
thank you.
Absolutely not.
Join us. The Gig Towers will build a new civilization.
It's like, hi, I'm Feral, join my cult. But no, we won't be doing any of that. No, instead, think about it. And this goes back to our early prehistory, I guess you would say. I mean, when you were in most men, we were basically in groups. We were out on the perimeter. We were out doing the hunting. And thing is, we were doing that kind of stuff together. So self-reliance is the difference between the guy that is going to get the rest of the group killed or the one that hauls his own weight and pulls his own shit and all that stuff. And that's what I'm trying to say.
That's kind
instead of being damsels in distress, instead of that, we go ahead, we take care of our own ourselves financially, physically, emotionally, and we make a point of that. And then we can be a resource to the rest of the community.
You know what it's kind of like, Prince, is like when you remember when I asked you if you were still playing Overwatch, and you said that basically I would be a liability to play with you. But so like I think that's what he's talking about. Like we all have to be skilled Overwatch players before we can play with everyone else on Overwatch.
Yeah. You guys are more than welcome to play with me in quick plays, but it'll probably take 2 or 3 months before you can join my regular competitive team rotation.
Before you can get to his level.
Darn. Well, I'll tell you what, if you're ever on Secret World, let me know. I'll let you run with me.
I don't know that game.
Oh, it's great.
Ragnarok. But I had a couple of thoughts actually on this topic of like self-reliance and I guess what it is we're trying to refer to with GigTow. Because like I like that we keep returning to this topic because like when somebody asks you like why GigTow, right? Because with MGTOW, it's this whole idea of men going their own way and it's kind of like a removal away from women. But like that relational setup doesn't make sense with gay men, right?
But away from their bullshit.
Well, right. And the point is then like what is the common denominator? And there's this paradoxical quality that MGTOW struggles with, which is that it opens up for each individual, like find your own path and do your own thing. Yet at the same time, it's an overarching label and therefore like an overarching sort of a philosophy. So it kind of has both of those sides that are in tension, and GigTow has that same thing. And I think that the major disconnect here is that when we talk about self-reliance, Like self-reliance is typically, you know, the individual is self-reliant, takes care of themselves. But when you talk about men and masculinity, that's actually not the standard that men are held to. The standard that men are held to is to be self-reliant and then to provide for a woman and then to provide for children as well. It's self-reliance extending to like the entire family. Self-reliance would actually be like a lower standard than that, right? And I think that's kind of the problem, is that when we talk about, like Prince was saying, how gay men have to understand that like you don't procreate. So then you have all these artistic men, and I think there's definitely a connection there, that the art and that sort of creation is sort of like that's where that gets channeled. And I think that we need to identify that common denominator between, for a traditional masculine role, it would be to, you know, care and provide for and protect a family, whereas this sort of gay version of that masculinity doesn't have that sort of an obligation to protect other people and instead creates something different.
Well, we have to
So-
protect.
So
our
basically, generative masculinity.
Yeah, like something like that. Generative
Yes.
masculinity is good, or yeah, just force, or even just it's even just like virtue. It's even just value, and value is
the word
totally
virtue itself comes from the
it's-
word for manliness.
well, as it should. I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
Well, Veer
yeah.
had. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking, yeah, this is tying back around to what you said in your video, which is that gay men need to fucking, and this is actually ties back to something that I've said to the guys before. I don't know if you were listening or not, but
Probably.
you told your nephew the world does not give a fuck about you, and gay guys need to have that realization, because it does make people stronger. And this sort of ties into something that I was saying about, okay, that, did you ever read that gay loneliness article in the Huffington Post?
Which one?
Well, there was an article called like "There's an Epidemic of Gay Loneliness," blah blah blah. It probably came out about a year ago.
Mhm.
And you know, it actually wasn't that bad of an article, and I say that in the way that it was the Huffington Post, and they at least admitted that there is distinct problems going on in the gay male community. Like, at least they fucking admitted it. And that's why I say it's not all that bad. But what was really bad about it was that, like, they just sat there whining about how hard it is to be rejected all the time, and how that drives men towards meth problems or some fucking shit. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, dude.
No, as someone that was strung out on meth for like 10 years, been clean for 15, by the way. No, that's not how it works. Rejection didn't drive me to that. Boredom did.
Well, and there's I think a lot of things that can drive people to that. But let's just assume for the sake of their argument that there is a lot of guys who end up doing meth because of this like they're feeling like bad about themselves, and then let's pretend that that's true. Do these guys need to just sit there like whining about that, or maybe they just need to learn to get over being rejected and realize that it's actually not all that bad to be rejected, because you're a fucking man. You have a male sex drive. That means that you want to fuck a lot of different people. That also means that since you're gay...
Just Conor McGregor.
What? Oh, yeah. But you know, okay, you're a man. You want to fuck a lot of different people. Also, since you're gay, a lot of different guys probably want to fuck you. Therefore, lots of rejections are going on. Therefore, you are a massive hypocrite if you take personally every single rejection, because you probably reject people all the time. You might not want to admit it. You might want to think that
You may not even realize it. But yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and so part of being a happier gay guy is like realizing that your little feelings don't fucking matter. You're dealing with other men.
We also need to take responsibility and think like, okay, well, if I'm getting rejected all the time by the same kinds of people, either maybe I need to try different kinds of people, or maybe I need to see if there's something that I'm doing that's causing me to be rejected. Am I being too needy? Am I not working out enough? Like, do I smell? But, you know, take stock of yourself and don't just assume that the problem is always some externalized force, because that's the feminist response. It's like, body
Yeah.
positivity. Instead of telling women, oh God, we're getting really fat, maybe we need to, as women, take control of our bodies. No, let's blame everyone else and say, you're the problem.
That's
Yeah.
that's one thing I never really understood about the whole crap with gay men. It's like, why do you want someone who's an asshole? It's a serious question. It's like, okay, you're falling for
That's
an
a good
asshole. The
question.
asshole doesn't want you. Why do you want that person to change to suit you when they're obviously a piece of shit?
To make a point, probably.
I don't know. Because I was
I don't
watching
know. I
this.
think it goes deeper than that.
I
You
don't
know
know.
what? I kind of have a theory on this actually, and I think it goes back to when Prince talked about the cottage parties. And when you think about this idea of like this pervasive sort of loneliness, like if you think about there's a tragedy to masculinity and a tragedy to femininity, and the feminine tragedy is that the intrinsic value you have on your sexuality means that people will want you just for that, right? So then you're never like sure if people really like you, right? And the male equivalent is that maybe they only like me for the things I can produce. But like I think that these cottage parties and gay promiscuity and things like that are actually an expression of that sort of a feminine gender role. And I think that that's what's happening is they're kind of using your own body as like, oh, I can kind of like it's something like to be seen as an object and then desired is kind of like the thing people are looking for, and that's why they don't like the rejection because it's not being reciprocated, right? But then I think that when we talk about wanting to establish some sort of a productive sort of a space, some sort of the gay equivalent of like what a church provides, or I guess gay Israel, whatever that looks like. It probably looks kind of like Israel, honestly. Israel looks pretty gay, but I just look at Eurovision news, so maybe
they got a lot of
that's definitely ruining it. But my point is that maybe these cottage parties are kind of like an expression of like a cathartic thing for like a feminine side of our psyche, whereas we need like a masculine counterbalance to things like that.
The animus. As opposed to the anima. We're going back.
And I'm kind of just I'm throwing it out there. I might be kind of drawing more parallels whether or not, but that's kind of I'm seeing this in that way.
I think you might have a point to an extent, but for instance, when I see a cottage party, I see it just like going to the bathhouse. I don't see. I'm sure there are exceptions, but in general, I don't see it as a feminine activity. I literally see it as like an explosion of hyper masculinism. Like, it's literally just like sex. Like, it's like the space exists for nothing other than just fucking and sucking and, crazy debauchery related to. Like,
yeah, that is fair. Like, I'm asking you to see a scene of a bunch of gay men fucking each other as a quote unquote feminine space. So I can definitely see how it's a rough sell.
I could see how it could apply in some situations, but like
okay.
No, go ahead.
There is a really strange duality that I've noticed happening with gay guys in the way that they sometimes become simultaneously what's the word trophy when somebody's trying to have sex with somebody to prove to themselves that they like a trophy
like a mark.
No, not exactly. No, there's a
term. Status fuck.
There's a term for when people fuck people as an to get a trophy, sort of like they're trying to get people. It's kind of like a what?
A conquest.
Conquest. Yes, that's what I wanted. Okay.
So she's all that.
So a conquest, a gay guy is simultaneously conquesting people, but then also insecure that the guys that they are conquesting are using them for their looks. I've run into guys that are like that. Like I've had a number of friends who are extraordinarily good-looking guys, and they're also extraordinarily slutty. I'm thinking of two guys off the top of my head, and
You said you were going to keep that quiet. No, I'm kidding.
Huh? I don't get it.
Oh, I'm just messing with you.
He was saying he was the good-looking slut that you were talking about.
Oh no,
well, you were half right.
I get it.
Oh, I get it. Okay, now I get it. So yeah, there was this. There's two people in particular that I'm thinking of who had sex and drug problems where they would have lots of sex, do lots of drugs, both very, very good looking, and a large amount of their self-esteem seemed to revolve around how many guys that they could get laid with, but then at the same time they always felt more and more empty. And I don't really think that the you know they seem to think to themselves that, like, it was not getting enough sex that was making them unhappy. But I almost think that it was like the this vicious circle of having more and more sex
The
was,
carousel?
um I guess, yeah, the carousel. That's a
The
good.
carousel.
Because they were simultaneously feeling like they were only valued for their looks, but then also wanting to be more valued for that. And it was this strange thing. And I mean, I have my personal solutions for like how I learned to get past the slutty phase of my life where I really gave a shit about that stuff. And now I just don't care about conquesting at all anymore, period. And I could fucking probably write a whole book about how I came to that point in my life. Maybe it's because I had all the guys, that I ever wanted, and now I can just remember them. But
You're full.
yeah, I'm full.
Wow.
I have a good spank bank. But but no, it's, I mean, but no, but there is like a personal self kind of actualization, and it does have to do with like realizing that the world doesn't give a fuck about you. You also don't have anything to prove to yourself. You just have to start living to your, for yourself and for what will actually make you happy, and thinking about what makes you happy. And like, yeah, maybe you have a crush on a guy. Well, maybe you can tell him. Does he say he doesn't want to go out with you? Okay, fine. You can also be his friend. So fucking what? Just so long as he's cool. And if he's not cool and he's like acts weird and acts like, like just because you asked him out on a date this one time, he acts like you're gonna forever have a crush on him for all of eternity. Well, then that guy's a fucking idiot anyway. Don't hang out with him, and probably don't hang out with his friends, because his friends probably suck too. And like having those realizations, they're not all that hard, but I don't think women can teach us those things.
Oh no, so you're definitely right. I mean, the way it is in straight sexuality, at least, typically the man is the one that proposes and the woman is the one that disposes. She says yes or no. Typically, women are the gatekeepers of sex. Men are the gatekeepers of what do you call it when they
Money.
stick around? Oh, I cannot think right now.
Commitment.
Yes. Wow.
Say it again.
Commitment.
Commitment.
It was a very odd word. I'm not familiar with it. Nah, just had a brain fart there for a minute.
I actually had a thought on this idea of like people not being able to deal with rejection and not being able to deal with like you being a friend of someone if you ask them out or whatever. I think that a huge problem of that has to do with our media. It has to do with like the way movies are and the way movie plots are. Because if you think about, for example, like any Disney movie, right, like stuff like that,
God,
like
Disney's
any
responsible for way too much.
right, or any rom-com, right? If you think about it, it's always like you can tell where it's going in the beginning. You can tell like who the love interests are. They're going to end up together, or maybe they added like a third party, right? Like you can just, it's all set up and it's so contrived. And then think what happens is like we psychologically just want to imprint that onto our experiences in reality. And like obviously reality is not super neat and clean cut the way those movies are. And like when you have those 90-minute spans, like we don't have a lot of plots where it's like so and so asked so and so out and then they get over it and then it just doesn't matter. I don't know.
It's true.
You're just waiting for the music to come on to tell you what to do. Am I supposed to be scared? Am I supposed to be happy?
Yeah, and it's nothing nefarious. I think it literally just has to do with like we decided at some point that somewhere between 90 minutes and 2 hours was great length for a movie, and then people were writing stuff, and I really just think that part of it has to do with just that structure getting imprinted onto us.
I think one of the other problems that we have in the gay community, and this may not, I don't think this is actually even a gig top problem. I'm not sure where it comes from, but excessive cattiness. Like, I've noticed that I kind of gave up on trying to make gay friends when I was still going to the bar, because I felt like there was this very kind of overt, for lack of a better word, monetization of like all relationships. You had to be able to offer something. Like either you had a lot of money and people wanted to be around you because you had a pool, or you have a big dick, or so and so. but like there was very little in the way of people just hanging out. Like you just don't think, I don't, at least I haven't met a lot of gay guys who's like, hey, you want to go like play video games, you want to go like, you know, hike
Oh
or
my
something
god, I
like
would love
that.
that.
It's just, am I wrong? Please tell me.
No, you are completely right,
Yeah.
and this is typically why I hang out with straight guys.
Yeah.
Dude, me and my best gay friend, we watch YouTube videos and play Magic the Gathering all the time.
Yeah, I'm not saying
And
these
that's
people
awesome.
don't exist, but it's not a part of our culture. Like you go to gay,
You know, I don't get it though. Like Magic the Gathering's pretty gay, and so is YouTube. Like, how come the gays aren't doing those things?
Yeah. No. I totally agree. And it was I actually went back when I was doing electronic music. I fucking got so frustrated, and I didn't have an outlet like YouTube. I should actually make this into a YouTube video. This whole, because I can make a whole essay about this. I felt like there wasn't a strong gay music scene, at least where I was, because fucking gay guys were such, you know, like goddamn, they get their panties in a twist and get so like uptight about the proposition of working on music with other gay guys. They couldn't understand the difference between some guy saying, hey, do you want to spin some records sometime and maybe produce a track, and actually saying, hey, do you actually want to go out on a date? And I legitimately was saying, I actually want to make music with you. I'm not asking you out. And other guys would either think that I was being weird and like never talk to me again or something, or, you know, just like kind of think that they were rejecting me. And I was like, dude, I wasn't even asking you out, you know? And or they would think that
That's weird.
They would think that that me doing that was me asking them out, and it wasn't. And it was like, fucking hell, I want to make a track, like I really do. And I felt like it was actually holding the music scene back, and I think that it can hold us back socially. Like, gay men need to learn how to have friendships and friendship boundaries, but also, like, you know, like when to start as when to start as friends, when to be upfront that you're attracted to a guy. These are all things that there's so much to explore in them. It's not like a fucking Disney movie. It's not like how your female friends were in high school. It is extremely different for gay men, and we need to actually have a space where we can talk about that and not have fucking trans people be like, but what about us?
Yeah, it's like, what about you? Go have your own conversation. It's okay, you know.
Well, I was gonna say part of what I think with the whole attraction and sex thing is I know guys specifically, we can separate sex from feelings, and I think it gets separated to the point where it kind of comes full circle, and it's back to, well, if it doesn't mean anything, why aren't we having sex, even if we're working on something artistic that's not related?
Yeah, because then it's just an insult to everything. And then all you're saying is, "Oh, I just don't want to fuck you,"
Yeah.
because there's no other reason not to.
And there's a huge fear of intimacy. I mean, I know that we're all as human beings afraid of being intimate with other people because, you know, opening up exposes, you know, our vulnerabilities, our weaknesses. But it seems like it's much worse with gay men. Like I don't have any gay friends that besides my husband. I mean, and that's not really the same thing, because once you've been together for about 10 years, you can't really separate flirting from love anymore, or flirting from fighting. It's like,
tell me about it.
I know, it's like people listen to our conversations like, oh my God, are you guys seeing a couples therapist? I'm like, no, it's just the way we talk.
Well,
I think it's mostly the gay childhood. Like, I think that really is, like, gay issues should primarily be gay children's issues. Like if you're like a parent of a gay kid, right, and then after they're 20, 25 or whatever, that's when you're like, oh, I guess they're still gay, I guess now I'll accept that. Fuck you, you're a child abuser. Fuck you. Like, if you have a gay child, that's a special needs child. Gay children have special needs, and it's just like not giving your child like a wheelchair if their legs don't work, to like not be supportive and engaging, and to be that kind of emotional outlet, because I think that's why gays are that way. I think it is rooted in that.
I don't really like the label special needs.
I was gonna say.
Well, I know what you.
I'm confused about like what, like, wait, do people know when their kids are gay?
A lot of people do.
Oh, trust
you
me,
can kinda
Dad, dude.
tell.
I think they know. They know.
Okay.
But I will say this too, though. I think that we have to be very careful with telling people to do that because, like, look at what's happening with parents that are talking about transgender children. Like, I think you have to. I think all you can do for your children is just love them, support them, and try to challenge them and try to understand them. But definitely don't go looking for. Like, if you believe that they are something, make sure that they understand what they think they are. If you've got a 4-year-old that says that they are a girl, and they're biologically male, maybe they have dysphoria, but 99% of the time,
Maybe they're playing.
Maybe they're
No,
playing.
but yeah, here's the thing though. Like, if your kid is straight, then like this issue doesn't even come up. If your kid's gay, then you might decide, oh, maybe my kid is actually trans. And like, I'm totally with Milo Yiannopoulos on his argument that it is just like an extreme sort of a virtue signaling where parents are just like willing to sacrifice their kid because if they raise a gay kid, maybe they fucked up, maybe they did something wrong, and then the kid turned out gay. But if you're trans, oh, that's this new cutting edge progressive thing. So like, I do think that there are situations where that cost benefit analysis it might not come into play on a conscious level, but maybe on a subconscious level. I'm just throwing that out there.
Maybe.
Again, not to mention the transitioning process, and as far as it goes with kids, and I say it should be completely off limits there because the child is not in a position where they can make an informed decision. But the thing is with the trans folks, the medical transitioning doesn't do anything for a lot of the mental problems that they face. Like they do have a very high suicide rate. Transitioning does not change that.
No, the suicide rates do not change, and you can try to blame that on transphobia, but I think a better thing to say is that this is a legitimate, deep-seated problem, and especially when you have people that are getting treatment for a problem that they don't have, hello transtrenders, then hormones are, if you already have underlying mental problems, hormones and surgery may not be the best solution.
No, I mean, at least get everything, as best you can, upstairs fixed before you go through that process. That way, if you do decide to transition, then you have a solid foundation to build off of. But I think it's just given a lot of people that think they are trans or may well be, and maybe giving them false hope, and that's very destructive.
Yeah, I mean, all you can, like I said, I'm going to say it again. All you can do for your children is love them, listen to them, support them, challenge. So yeah, it's a big list, but number one thing, just love your kids. Yeah, just love your kids. If you can only do one thing, just love your children, and try. And well, I guess you have to do two things: love your children and try to respect your children.
Let them be kids for a while. Don't be like putting all your bullshit on them like Lindsay from Queer Kid stuff.
Oh my god. Lindsay is the, I think, one of the reasons,
threw up in my brain a little.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the reasons that everyone reacts so violently to Lindsay, because I really do believe that Queer Kid stuff is actually much more cynical and much more destructive than Riley or any of these other things, because she is so serious about what she thinks she's doing. She thinks that she is on some sort of, mission from intersectional goddess, and the truth is,
gender god.
I know, but from the
wait,
from
did you just gender that deity?
That
Yes.
You know what? Oh god, I'm gonna get struck down. Like, oh, I did it again. Oh,
did you just misgender they?
So yeah.
Wait, did you? Because I don't identify as me.
Actually, I don't identify as a single person. I identify as multiple people. So therefore, if you use they, it's actually wrong because my pronoun is they because it needs to be plural.
So are we appropriating your pronouns?
Yes.
Well,
it just suddenly devolved.
Literally raped.
You're
literally
all,
raped.
You're all terrible because I don't even identify as a multicellular organism. I actually identify as a B flat.
A B flat note.
But coming back,
I'm a B sharp.
Cultural appropriation. But no, what I was trying to say about Lindsay is like,
Y'all are just asking for trouble.
yeah,
Ha! I get it.
I think
The dad
Trouble.
jokes are strong with this one. Roll with it.
anyway, short up, like Lindsay is trying to destroy childhood. She's trying to take away the wonder and the exploration and discovery and turn it into a cheap piece of political theater. She wants to take all of the wonders of growing up and turn it into a PSA.
Well, wouldn't it be a PS gay
God,
or
that's
something?
horrible.
Do you know what queer kid stuff is?
I've seen a couple of videos, and
okay.
it was enough to.
And the fact that
Yeah.
her audience is supposed to be 3-year-olds.
Oh my god, guys.
Terrifying.
Can we do a cover of the Queer Kid Stuff theme song as a boy band? I think we need to be a gay boy band and cover that song, and we can make it like NSYNC style.
Oh
Or
my
like
God.
Blue from the UK.
No, thank you, because my liver would sue me for like alcohol poisoning it.
Well, fine. I'll find other gays for my gay fucking band.
Go off and you're a gig towel. Like you're a gig towel going your own
Fucking
way.
next level.
Oh my god. Like,
Oh my
And
God,
it's
we've
gonna
reached
set
Inception.
increasing levels of just.
it's not even this isn't even the black pill. This is like the lavender pill. Like I don't even know.
Also, this is not an inception.
Glad
It's an
pill.
outception. Because that way I can just keep going.
So guys, we are going up on 11
hours
p.m.
now.
and I think so
We
I think we should try to stop by 11. But I want to sort of ask hoping that there's some audience members that come across this, got engaged, thought that we seemed cool and like we were having fun talking to each other, and was interested in Feral Cat's vision of Gig Tao, which by the way you really should watch on his channel, and I think it's going to be developing because we're all making it up as we go along. But Feral Cat, what would you give to advice for gay men who are starting to potentially want to claim some sort of autonomy, reclaim their masculinity, focus on their masculinity instead of their victimhood? What would you give them advice in terms of starting?
Most important, pay attention. And I'm especially mean to what's going on inside your head, because these are a lot of ideas that you may think are done because they're the right thing, but it turns out that they're really not. There's a lot of attitudes that we take on, and we never question those. So pay attention above all else, to what's going on between your ears.
Be self-aware, basically. Be very
Extremely self-aware and critical of be critical of the thoughts that you have going on within your head. I mean, so, okay, good example. We're gay. We like dick. All right. Does that mean that, oh, you're gay, that means you like this and this and this and this? No, it doesn't mean that. No, get things back down to brass tacks. And then the rest, you might or might not like those other things, but don't buy into the whole identity.
You know what I think is the one thing I've been meaning to talk to you about, Farrell, but I'll say it here first. But I think that one of the things that GigTown needs to do is really smash the idea of the gay card, because as cute as that joke is, it really is.
It was cute the first 600 times I heard it.
Mm-hmm. It really is. It's a joke, but it's not really a joke. It really is an idea that at first we used to use on each other, but now everyone else is trying to use. Like the idea that your gayness is something that can be defined by, a codified, like.
Wait. One moment though, because I made the joke.
You get a pass though. We like you.
No. I used it on Gabe Gonzalez, that fucking queen that I was talking about earlier, when he was talking about how, like, he said that if we don't let women and transgender people into every single one of our parties, like if we want to have a party for just gay men, well, that's actually really heteronormative. Because somehow
they can't come to my birthday party.
And so I was like, that doesn't. So wait, you just said that I'm sort of straight because I'm too gay? Is that what you like? It doesn't like the logic didn't make any sort of sense at all.
There
And
is no logic to that.
so I said I was like,
Purely
so
motive.
I said
It's
I'm
like a
taking
double negative. God, come on.
I'm taking away your gay card. Like that doesn't fucking make any sense. Like, you know, because he tried to say it was like confining. The sentence that he said it was really really long, and it sounded like he was making sense, but obviously just didn't make sense. But I do think that if a gay guy shows absolutely no loyalty to gay men at all, and like doesn't care about gay male interests, like it's okay to like not really hang out with gay guys and shit, like that's fine if you know don't really have that many gay male friends or whatever. But I do think that there should be a deep underlying acknowledgement that you are a gay guy at the same time. Like it should.
I agree. I just don't like the idea that it has all these other attachments to it that so many people. It's like if you're a Republican, you like we're gonna take your gay card. If you're like if you're this, if you're that, like I get it. We should definitely always be mindful and loyal to our brothers, but at the same time
have our best interests in mind, but don't
it shouldn't be so specific.
Well, yeah, and like don't let anybody fucking define what the best interests are for you. Like it's like it's certainly not up to some fucking straight white feminist who's taken over a gay organization to decide what the best interests of gay men are.
No, be self-reliant.
I tend to fall a little more on the extreme on this one, but I mean, I see where you guys are coming from. It's just, I don't think we should necessarily feel any kind of brotherhood beyond, okay, this is what we do have in common. I mean, straight guys are a great example. I mean, there are billions of kinds of straight guys out there. Or at least, I guess, figure about 3 billion-ish now that I do the math. But the thing is,
brothers.
Yeah, and they're not all the same. Neither are we. I mean, that's a fact that we need to consider.
I guess that comes down to almost like, is there such a thing as like the gay race in a way, almost like, because that's sort of like what we've been built our identity on as gay men, is like this we are united not by any kind of particular culture other than a common interest, which for the longest time has been deeply forbidden, and now it's less forbidden, but it's still unusual statistically speaking.
Yeah, and I'm not saying go one way or the other with it. I am saying though, just take the idea, unpack it, and question it. I mean, maybe you'll decide it's better to that we do acknowledge and kind of fuse on some type of a brotherhood, or maybe it's better that we kind of fall under the same umbrella. Okay, these are gay guys, and then we have all these different groups that have their own different types of interests going on. It's just
military leather.
It's just
I'm sorry, my birthday's when?
We should take like more like old grinder approach. Like we have our different tribes, but we're all grinder users.
Oh, tribal's a good word for it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But okay, but don't you think though, for GigTow, don't you think that in order for GigTow to be successful as a thing at all, there does need to be some sort of slight bit of cultural ethos about it?
I think it needs to exist as a concept. Like you have, like you start with the question, like, are you a GigTow? Like, well, what does that mean to you? Like, and like there are certain principles which I define. For me, GigTow is basically more than you act a certain way. It's more like, okay, if you're a GigTow, that probably means that you're obviously a gay man. You reject outside definitions of yourself and what it means to be a gay man. You get to like self-reliance. You get to decide what that means to you, and you get to make your own choices regardless of what other outside pressures are telling you.
And I see where Prince is coming from on here too. I mean, a shared ethos is important for any kind of group cohesion.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking if we do have an overlying ethos, and that's what, like I said, what we would need for that, then we would have to be very judicious about what we try to put into it, not to try to make it too far
Broad.
leaning in one direction, or we may end up with something like we're trying to get out of now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the danger of it, and that's this is why I'm asking these questions, and
These are good questions.
It's an open-ended thing, because like, I think that there's just so many people that, they're scared to leave the soup even though it's making them miserable, because they don't know where they go next, and they want to have the place to go next. And most people are like that. I'm not like that, and I've never really been like that. Like, if I'm unhappy somewhere, I can just retreat to nowhere and then create something and figure it out. Like, and I've always kind of been like that. Like, I've moved cities different times, and every time managed to make a new friend group. But most people aren't really like that. Most people have no idea that they can just leave and reform from the ground up again.
I wonder if you could make the argument, and Farrell, this is a question too for you and for anyone really. If maybe you could say that LGBT, the feminist dogmatic cult that we're trying to get out of, is sort of like social. Well, it is and really has a lot of socialism in it. Would it be fair to say that GigTow is more like, I don't know, anarchy or
don't know about anarchy because I don't know much about it.
Well, I mean, it's LGBT is based on conformity and rigid definition of groups and how they behave and who is what, whereas GigTow is more about okay, you know what, I reject the authority. I reject your authority to tell me what to do. I reject this system of.
So you're talking about little L libertarianism. I have to kind of be careful to distinguish there. I don't want to mistakenly lump it in with a party, but an outlook.
No. Yeah, no, I'm just speaking.
The party ain't libertarian.
No, I don't want. I think one of the other things that is important, maybe for GigTow to do, is to definitely try to depoliticize gay identity.
Yeah, that's
that's
what I was just gonna say. Anything we would, conceivably build, the most political stance it would have to be is just, we are anti-feminist just because you are a threat to us, not because, and then nothing beyond that.
Yeah, and we're not.
You're nicer than I am.
I think that's the best. I think that's one of the. If there's one thing that GigTow is, it's we are pro men, pro masculine, and anti-feminist.
But see, okay, I it really depends on how you define masculine. I'm fine with Feral Cat's version of masculinity. So in that way, we're but the anti-feminist thing, or against feminism, yeah. Well, though. Okay, I'm against feminism in general. I want it eradicated from the earth. I don't think it helps women. I don't think it helps anybody. I think it would lead to the collapse of civilization. But at the same time, I could let it rest if we got it out of the gay community. That's me. That's just me.
When I think for GigTow, being against feminism isn't to say that we have to wage a holy war against it. It's more like we have to extricate ourselves from its grip and define our own identity and our own lives without it. If we are able to remove ourselves from it, then we've accomplished at least part of our goal. And I think the reason that it's GigTow as opposed to say a gay equality movement or a gay reformation is because, frankly, I don't believe that the LGBTQ plus IA alphabet soup, I don't think it can be presently reformed because it's too gelled. It's too calcified right now. I think the only thing that will possibly cause any kind of reform in the LGBT movement is if they realize that they can't take us for granted anymore. And even if a small but noticeable number of us leave and openly defy their order, then we've accomplished something, because that will force them to at least acknowledge that there are issues. And if they deny that they exist, then that will only highlight the fact that the issues are real.
Yeah, I think we're kind of past the point of them being able to change. I think it's going to be a major split, and then they'll reform or at least the organizations that will want to be a united LGBT whatever, they'll just start kicking out the feminists just because they'll go, oh shit, we need to survive and they're toxic, and it'll be that, but we'll still be out there and we'll be, the anti-feminist version, but
We have to be
Yeah.
the opposing narrative.
Yeah.
Like we
Well,
have
yeah,
to show
no,
that there
'cause-
is another one.
Because the feminist thing, they're like, okay, I have this little quote. I've probably put it in videos before. Intersectionality is just code word for white women that want everybody to like them. And they've been really successful in thoroughly brainwashing people, like, legitimately disadvantaged people, like transgender women who are, racial minorities, transgender racial minorities who need services like drop-in centers, and who have been homeless and everything. Well, if you're some nonprofit worker who's a feminist who can offer them something, well, of course that person's going to be loyal to them. Well, those people, obviously have become feminists, and from not wanting to be a jerk to those, poor trans runaway teenagers and stuff. A lot of gay guys have been too, but more and more gay guys are stopping to want to be a feminist. And what I suspect is that those transgender drop-in centers, or whatever the fuck it is going to go out of business, and people are going to be like, who ran it into the ground? I don't know if we can blame white men anymore. I think that maybe we can, because the starving piranha syndrome happens every day. It really, really does. Like the fucking feminists are always accusing each other of not being intersectional enough, or not caring about, the real oppressed people enough, or blah, 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 blah. And it's only going to be so long before people realize that the problem is really just these fucking whiny ass entitled women who don't give a fuck. And like, the people who are really keeping these nonprofit organizations afloat, who really contributed to them, were the gay men. Those are the people who had the money. And I think it's only a matter of time before people realize that. And I think that everybody can probably agree upon that. If we can, maybe we should close this out.
Okay.
I think so.
I think so. This has been fantastic, y'all. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Oh, you're required to come back.
Yeah. Thanks a whole bunch for coming on. His live stream, or his channel, is going to be linked, and yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the next installments of his. What's the name of your series again?
I don't have one.
You've been calling them
videos.
Gigtow rants, I believe, in most of your intros.
Yeah, that's kind of my placeholder name, but we'll work with that.
You can be like Jack and call them films.
Like who?
Like Jack's films, he calls them films.
But who's that?
I don't know who that is either.
He's a famous YouTuber. God.
You're
All I
just
know is
too hip.
PewDiePie.
Spacepan is our resident YouTube hipster. He knows all of the obscure YouTube channels that apparently someone is watching, but no one knows about.
I have the soul of like a 14-year-old girl, and I don't think that's changing.
Me too. I've got a couple of them in mayonnaise jars. You need one?
Oh my god.
Okay. This could
And
go
on the
for
note
a
of
while,
mayonnaise.
and we should stop the stream and maybe talk afterwards.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. So okay, everyone in chat. Good night, everybody, and see you in the next one. And.